they might need to be. Great, so the recording is now in progress. So I need you to check on the invitee side, excuse me, the attendee side, if anyone needs to be promoted. And folks, if you are watching this meeting and you are actually a board member and you need to be promoted, please use the raise hand feature, or if you're calling in, press *9, and our acting clerk, Megan, will go ahead and make sure that you get into the room. Okay, I don't see anyone who's in the wrong place. Do you, Megan?
It does not appear so. I'll just, Howard's also helping me keep an eye on it. So we'll just pay attention. And Howard, you've been promoted to co-host, FYI. So you should be able to do all the Zoom things. Great.
So one part of Megan and one part of Howard equals one Adrian. And when you speak to him, please let him know how grateful we are for all of the work that he does, and we hope he's feeling better. So with that said, it is 5:06 p.m. for your records, Madam Clerk, and I'm calling to order this meeting of East Bay Community Energy, our regular Board of Directors meeting for today, Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. And I'm just going to state for the record that this meeting is being conducted by teleconference pursuant to the newly enacted Assembly Bill 361, and the agency was previously complying with Brown Act orders issued by the governor, which were aimed at containing the novel coronavirus, but those expired on September 30th. And the new bill gives local agencies the authority to continue to host virtual meetings until January 1st, 2024, so long as California is under a governor declared state of emergency, and so long as we can make certain findings, which we are going to actually address in our first item, which is item 3. However, I had told Adrian this, but as he is sick, I had asked for this item 3 to be put onto consent, since we've already addressed it once. It's non-controversial, but since it is not on consent, I will check with our clerk to see if anyone has submitted electronic comment on our AB 361 findings. Nor any speaker cards, correct, Megan?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, we do have one hand raised for this item. I will provide 1 minute for the public to address this item. So if you will unmute Blair Beekman and give them 1 minute, please. And you'll just need to let them know verbally when they're unmuted, Megan.
Megan, you are muted, just FYI.
Sorry, y'all. I lost the attendee. There we go. Okay. Or I lost the participant list. I'm so sorry. Give me just a moment.
Take your time. And for those of you who are joining us just now, we are operating without our clerk. And so everyone's come together to do the work of our clerk, Adrian Bankhead, today.
And Megan, I'll just note, I don't think these were signed up speakers. So there are 2 with raised hands in the attendees. That's Blair Beekman.
Okay.
Bar. So you can just go ahead and I think call on them.
Great. And everyone can see the timer. And then I'll just unmute. I'll start with Blair Beekman and just say you're unmuted, and then I'll hit start on the timer. Is that okay?
That's
great.
Correct. Yes.
Hi, Blair, you are unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Good luck to ourselves tonight and our meeting. I wanted to quickly offer on this item a speech. I'm trying to learn how to practice in speaking to local governments at this time. It's quite possible there is a bit of COVID on the rise in Europe at this time. And that means that, well, it is actual, not possible, but from that, it's possible that it could be coming back here very soon. Its numbers could be rising. Maybe not in previous years, but it should possibly be rising. Mask use is really important. All through the holiday time, I hope we can remind that of each other. And I really hope we can work on the idea of how the vaccine process that those sort of efforts continue to need to be talked about. What is the vaccine process? How to understand its possibilities, what it's about, our lifestyle choices from it to make that more comfortable for ourselves. It's important to learn how to do that. And the open public policies with technology ideas can really help the process for ourselves a lot. Thank you.
Okay, I believe Jessica Tovar is next. So you are now unmuted, Jessica, and I'm going to press start on the timer.
I'm sorry, think I'm a little confused. This is not public comment, right?
This is public comment for the AB 361 finding for continued remote meetings.
Oh, wait for open public comment. I apologize. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, Jessica. We're a little discombobulated on this side. And my apologies to our acting clerk. I am remiss that I missed having you conduct our roll call. So if you could please go ahead and do that at this time.
Okay, great.
And I'll note, I just got a note from our director from the city of Oakland. They're hearing a matter that is pertinent to the matter of Oakland, to the city of Oakland at Stop Waste. So he will be coming in a bit late.
Actually, I just got here.
Ah, you did it.
Yes. Thanks.
Great. Okay, I'm going to call the jurisdiction, and then if you could use, I guess you say present, and also it wouldn't hurt to like raise your Zoom hand just so I can make visual contact. I would appreciate that. So thanks y'all. City of Albany.
Present.
City of Livermore.
Present. Trish Monroe, you were looking for names.
Thank you, Trish. City of Piedmont.
Hannah McCarthy, Piedmont.
Great, thank you. City of San Leandro.
Rena Lopez, present.
Okay. City of Tracy.
Present.
City of Oakland.
Present, Ms. Dan.
City of Emeryville.
Present.
City of Hayward.
Present.
City of Union City. Okay. Thank you, Director Patino. City of Berkeley.
Here, Kate Harrison.
City of Pleasanton.
Here, Kathy Narron.
City of Fremont.
Teresa Cox, here.
City of Dublin.
Melissa Hernandez here. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Director Hernandez. City of Newark.
Mike Hannon here.
And then Alameda County. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, but the CAC chair.
Anna Olivia Eldred, Community Advisory Committee.
And that concludes roll call.
Very good. Thank you, Megan. And I want to welcome Anna Olivia Eldred back to these meetings. It's good to have you. So now we've heard public comment on AB 361 and board, now would be the time if anyone has any questions. I know that we've all been dealing with these findings at our respective cities, but if anyone has any questions or comments, I will go ahead and take those from the board, or if there's any discussion. Otherwise, I would be happy to entertain a motion and a second to approve these findings.
Mike Hannon from the city of Newark, asking for approval of the resolution.
Second.
Okay, that was a lot of seconds. You want to wave your hand in the air if you're one of those people? I'll just pick one of you. We'll go with Member Harrison from Berkeley. So that was a motion.
Chair, just to clarify, that was a motion to approve the findings. We do not have a resolution associated with this item.
Will you accept that slight amendment?
I apologize for that. Yes.
Yes. So we've got a motion from the member from Newark and a second from the member from Berkeley. And Madam Clerk, when you're ready, please call the roll.
And sorry, just to clarify, is this for the consent items 5, 6, and 7?
No, this is for item 3.
Item 3, okay.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay, City of Albany,
Yes.
City of Livermore.
Yes.
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating that? It was a little garbled.
Yes. I'm good. Virtual's good.
Okay, City of Piedmont,
Yes.
City of San Leandro,
Aye.
City of Tracy,
Yes.
City of Oakland,
Aye.
City of Emeryville,
Aye.
City of Hayward,
Aye.
City of Union City,
Aye.
City of Berkeley,
Yes.
City of Pleasanton,
Aye.
City of Fremont,
Aye.
City of Dublin,
Aye.
City of Newark.
Aye.
Okay, I believe that concludes voting on that item.
Very good, thank you. And that would make now the time for public comment. This item is reserved for persons wishing to address the board on any EBCE related matters that are not otherwise on this meeting agenda. Public comments on matters listed on the agenda shall be heard at the time the matter is called. As with all public comment, members of the public who wish to address the board are customarily limited to 2 minutes per speaker and must complete an electronic speaker slip. The board chair may increase or decrease the time allotted to each speaker. And I'll check first with Megan to see if anyone has submitted electronic comment.
People have, so my question is, 2 people have written as the item they want to address is just public comment, and then there are people that have specified items. Is this just the general public comment?
This is the general public comment. So you may call, in order that they were received, you may call the folks who have submitted speaker cards for the general public comment, and then we will address anyone else who has a raised hand after that.
Okay, the first person who submitted a card for public comment is Barbara Stebbins. Give me just one moment.
Great, and it's 2 minutes right now for comment for the timer, Megan.
Got it, okay. Okay, I'm Barbara Stebbins, you've been unmuted and I'm about to, hold on, share the screen and start the timer, sorry.
It's Barbara Stebbins. I have a comment from the
California Alliance for Community Energy, but I was actually informed by Jessica Tovar that the item I'm commenting on is under item 8. So I will defer my comment till then if I can stick around. If not, I will send it to you in written form.
Barbara, item 8 is under consent, so this would be an appropriate time to make those comments if you wish.
Oh, great. Okay, I am speaking today with the California Alliance for Community Energy. We have been involved with the battle at the state level to keep local community solar, primarily rooftop solar, thriving and equitable. The investor-owned utilities are pushing the CPUC to make a decision in December about net energy metering that would make rooftop solar unprofitable, essentially killing the industry in California. We are asking all CCA boards to write letters to the PUC in opposition to any decision on net energy metering that would endanger the growth of rooftop solar in California. Such a decision would deny the benefits of local solar to low and middle income customers, eliminating the possibility of delivering energy equity to environmental justice communities, and imperil the state's ability to meet climate goals. While net energy metering may not be good for EBC's bottom line, local clean energy resources are good for our communities in ways that are way beyond this agency. They are essential for energy resilience. They extend the opportunity for energy affordability and control to those left out of most aspects of economic well-being. We're asking the EBCE board to write a letter to the CPUC commissioners in support of an equitable, economically viable NEM policy. San Diego Community Power already sent an excellent letter in support of NEM that would provide a good example. I also just want to point out, I think other people are planning on speaking on this and may not realize that now is the time to do that.
Barbara, I also see that NEM 3.0 is addressed on item 10B. So
can I just interject real quick, Chair Martinez? There are two different agendas that have been posted. Apologies for that. We did a revised agenda. And so I do want to just make sure you have the revised agenda in front of you, because item 8 in the latest agenda is a CEO report and not a consent item agenda. We had removed 2 consent item agenda items.
It's 6.
Thanks for letting me make my comment. I couldn't stay around for item 10 anyway.
Okay, very good. I don't think I'm looking at the most up-to-date agenda. And again, thank you everyone for hanging in there with us. We are down our staff clerk today. So if someone from staff could just email me the latest agenda, I want to make sure that I am
I just forwarded it to you.
We put that in the chat so we all have it. That would be great. Thank you.
I'll put a link right now in the chat for everybody.
Appreciate it. And so I'm just going to continue with the agenda at least the order that everything's in, and I'll have a rely on staff to let me know if we're out of order. But so far we are still in order. And we are still in
I'll just note that the agenda that is on the ebce.org website, so just for members of the public's sake, the agenda that is on the EBC website is the properly numbered agenda. So item 8 in that case was the CEO report where NEM 3.0 is covered.
Very good.
And I think Megan did put the link to that in the chat for folks to see as well.
Okay, very
good. Yes, I linked to the website. And Madam Chair, we have one more public comment.
Yes, let's take that this time.
Okay, that is I believe Alita Dupree. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. You are now unmuted, Alita, and I'm going to press start on the timer.
Thank you again, Chair Martinez. Alita Dupree for the record. My pronouns are she and her. It's always good to be back with you. Electricity is basic, and I believe in the importance of the basics. And the day-to-day, year-over-year work of providing the cleanest, safest, and most equitable distributed electricity that we can and to show leadership with that. Because as I go around in my day, I am highly cognizant of the emissions and particulates that I see out in the world. I am sitting here in my all-electric home, but there's so much more to do. And so I look for us to continue to source out more renewable electricity and to store it so we don't have to be dependent on these other dirtier forms of electricity because of the disconnect that comes between when the renewables are produced and when they are used. One can simply look at a load graph and see the spikes and differences. Storage, of course, is essential, and there are sustainable ways, I believe, in storing electricity that are cognizant of full life cycle of these particular installations, because nothing happens in a vacuum and things change and problems can be solved over time. So I hope that we can continue the work of building a community where people can live better electrically. It's okay to buy more electricity as long as we can buy less fossil fuel energy. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Speaker. Megan, does that conclude everyone we had lined up to speak?
Yes, that's everyone who was listed as commenting specifically for public comment and not for a specific item.
Okay, very good. That moves us to.
No, this is Blair Beekman. I wanted to speak at public comment still, and I
Oh.
submitted 2 cards.
My apologies. Blair, let me get you queued up. Sorry about that.
And I see Jessica Tovar as well when Blair's finished.
Okay.
Can I start now?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. I guess it's fair to say we're all missing Adrian tonight. Good luck how we can work. I am not fully sure, but in some simple statistic reading of local East Bay community energy plans, the IPR plans of the next decade, I came to the conclusion there may be a large earthquake in the SF Bay area by 2023. This would mean planning ideas for 2022 may be much different than in 2023 and from 2024 to 2025 and onward. In no way do I mean these words as alarmist or the ideas to be used for political reasons or disaster capitalism practices. I'm not fully sure what may happen by 2023. It is my hope in offering these concerns, it can make something clear for yourselves and what to better expect of 2023. And from this, I feel it can help with better planning decisions for yourselves in the next few years. I hope I can have some letter writing conversations with yourselves that can work towards clarity and more mature ways to talk about emergency community planning and health and human services. These are the ideas of renewable energy procurement at the local level and renewable energy ideas. This is really hopeful stuff that if we work on these things now, it will keep us much more prepared if there is a natural disaster possibility, and it helps us transition easier back to our regular practices after a major disaster event. You know all of this. It's nice if we could be practicing this and talking about this more openly. And I thank yourselves for the early work that if you have been trying to offer this direction, and I'm always impressed by the real constructive way you go about items and talking about items in your agendas. I hope you continue that good work and it can help make things clear for all of us what to expect in our future. Thank you.
Okay, and then I believe Jessica Tovar had raised her hand, so I'm going to now unmute her and okay, Jessica, I believe you can now speak, and I'm going to start the timer if you're ready.
Okay, great. I think Mercury is in Gatorade again. You're doing great, Megan. Okay, Jessica Tovar, East Bay Clean Power. I actually wanted to comment on community innovation grants. It was talked about last June to allocate 250,000 towards community innovation grants, which hasn't been done. But what I'm also noting is that that same amount is being allocated to the low moderate income electrification program. And both are really good programs that benefit the community, especially communities that need help, need funds, or need help in accessing the electrification program. But I am concerned that we're allocating money and then switching what we're using it for, when I think both of these programs should have their own line item of money. And both should be funded well. So I really think that this needs to be looked into, because each program certainly deserves its own budget. And I think I brought this up last month, but the intent of community innovation grants is that it's part of the local development business plan, and it should be offered every year. And we have not offered that grant since I think it was 2019. So there is a huge disconnect there. I would like the board to look into that and make sure that each program of the local development business plan is fully funded and continues to happen every year. That is the intent of that program. And community innovation grants is seed money for nonprofits programs. That's my time. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Speaker. All right, Megan, any more hands up?
I don't see any more hands in the attendees window. Okay.
All right, colleagues, that will move us to our consent agenda. And I have a note from staff that we're going to have to pull item 5 from the consent agenda because there are not prepared minutes connected with that part of the agenda. So what we're considering are the contracts entered into and the CAC's 2 at-large member appointments. Colleagues, are there any questions on the agenda or any discussion that you would like to have? Other Member Harrison.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by Ms. Tovar's comment. Is she saying that funds in the contracts approved are going to something other than the community grants that we approved? Nick, I'm not following because I'm reading your report and I'm reading the contracts and I don't see this change. So I'm not certain what she's referring to.
Nick, do you want to respond?
Yeah. You know, the reference to there is a grant in the contract entered into to Cypress Mandela Training Center, which was one of the legacy. Can somebody mute Becky? I think was that you having an issue? That was a legacy grant from the $2 million of COVID relief grants that we had provided, and so it just has taken time for various grants to be completed. And so this is one of the remaining grants that we have.
Is there anywhere in the agenda tonight we're talking about an allocation of funds to Block Power?
Yes.
Where is that? What item is that?
That is item 11.
11. Okay, I will come back.
And so, and yeah, yep. Great.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Chassett. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Well, let's speak to item 11 when we get there.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Colleagues, any other questions on the consent agenda regarding contracts entered into or our 2 new CAC members as proposed? All right, if there are no questions or discussion, I'd be happy to entertain a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
I'm happy to move the consent agenda minus the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from member Kalb in Oakland. And was that second Pleasanton?
Well, with Livermore, but it might have been Pleasanton too.
You both have a beautiful blue background. So I was just, my eyes were trying to catch who said that. So the second was from member Monroe in Livermore. And at this time, I will ask our clerk to please call the roll on the consent agenda.
Okay. City of Albany,
Yes.
City of Livermore,
Yes.
City of Piedmont,
Yes.
City of San Leandro,
Aye.
City of Tracy,
Yes.
City of Oakland,
Aye.
City of Emeryville,
Aye.
City of Hayward,
Aye.
City of Union City,
Aye.
City of Berkeley,
Yes.
City of Pleasanton,
Aye.
City of Fremont,
Aye.
City of Dublin,
Aye.
and City of Newark.
Aye.
Okay, and just confirming we do not have a representative for Alameda County, correct?
Don't see them.
That concludes voting on this item.
Okay, thank you, Megan. All right, that will bring us to the real item 8, the CEO report. And for this, we have only one Nick Chassett in the room. Earlier we had several, but I will turn this over to the real Nick Chassett.
Nick, you're muted.
Oh, we have a birthday going on in the other room. So if you hear chatting, that's what's going on. So, okay, my CEO report. Open that up. And so we did not have an executive committee meeting this past month. We canceled that. We did have a finance administration and procurement subcommittee meeting. And in that meeting, which was held last week, we covered some of the updates that we're seeing to the 2022 power charging difference adjustment for 2022 and 2023, as well as some of the approaches we're taking to integrating the PCIA into our energy risk management activities. We have not had an MRL meeting, pardon me, since our last board of directors. We do have a new colleague, Alec Ward. I'm going to share. Alec is joining us from the California Public Advocate's Office, where he served as a lead on engagement on rooftop solar and paired with rooftop solar and storage proceedings. He previously worked at the Nature Conservancy, where he led initiatives to create policies and lobby federal officials on climate change, renewable energy, and public lands. And he's also worked in the White House, the US Senate, and on congressional campaigns. Alex has a BA from the University of Virginia and MS from Johns Hopkins. Alec is going to be, among other things, leading our efforts around engaging with the federal government. So Alec is going to be engaging and watching all things infrastructure bill and Build Back Better, and kind of helping us stay on top of all of the opportunities that are coming out of the federal government. Alex is also going to be working closely with Melissa on all things related to the state legislature. Next is net energy metering. This was an item that Barbara Stebbins referenced. What I wanted to share is we are planning to send a letter of support to the California Public Utilities Commission, supporting a sustainable solar market. Attached to this item is the sample letter that San Diego Community Power had sent. So our plan is to send a letter largely in the form of the letter that San Diego Community Power shared, and we should be doing that here in the next number of days. I intend to send a copy of that letter to our chair and vice chair ahead of submitting it to the PUC for their review and comments. So finally, we do have a presentation from California Solar and Storage Association. So can we promote Igor to share some of the work that Cal SSA is doing on solar and storage permitting?
Yes, give me just one moment, please.
Hello. Let's see.
Okay, Igor, you should be a panelist now, and you should be able to talk.
Great. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. And it's great to be to join you on the other side of this Zoom to talk to you about Solar App, the free automated solar plus storage permitting solution. Next slide, please. The Solar App is a collaborative effort. It was developed by the National Renewable Energy Lab under the auspices of the Department of Energy. So it was developed in the public interest, which means that it is free for local jurisdictions to adopt. And it is supported by a very nominal, right now, $25 administrative fee paid for by installers of solar and storage. And that fee is only expected to go down. The idea behind this is to make it easier for local jurisdictions like each of yours that you represent to quickly and safely approve standardized rooftop projects for installation. Next slide, please. Here's what Solar App does. It uses, instead of a 1 or 3 line diagram, which is the typical plan set that is submitted to a building department, it uses a series of yes or no questions and ranges to automate compliance checks for what I'm going to be calling cookie cutter projects. And we will see what those cookie cutter projects are in the next slide. But the idea is, this sounds very simplistic, I recognize, but undergirding the many sets of yes or no questions, which still take much less time to complete than doing line diagrams, and then for inspectors to have to go through those line diagrams. There is a lot of logic, which is supported by the most recent building, fire, and other consensus standards. And it is fully compliant with California's Title 24. In doing this, this tool gives jurisdictions and installers the ability to catch code issues, typos, and errors. And because you can't submit an application that's incorrect, it returns corrections instantly. Now, this applies to what I would call the 80-20 rule. So this is the 80% of the most commonplace residential. Right now, it's set for single family and duplex properties with PV or PV plus storage. So more complex projects still would go through typical review. But what I would say, and this is from my time on the Berkeley Zoning Board, sometimes it takes a lot of time to just get through those easy consent items. And that leaves less time for us to review the more meaty items. So if inspectors had more time to look at a Solar App submittal, and Solar App automatically verifies that it is done up to code, then they have more time to do that typical review, which really saves time and money. All of us represent jurisdictions, well, all of you represent jurisdictions that have probably had challenges with staffing, especially in the wake of the pandemic. And this allows staff to be able to focus on the big things that are taking the most time. And ultimately, the deliverable for this tool is an inspection checklist that replicates the same permit details that inspectors would get when they normally verify a 3-line or 1-line electrical diagram. Next slide, please. So here we can see that US solar jobs have increased, although you do see this drop off in 2016. That's when the NEM 2 policy came along. So we're hoping NEM 3, with all of our help, will not be detrimental to the industry so that solar jobs can continue to grow. And Solar App has the promise and the real ability to grow these jobs even more. In fact, there was a study by SPUR that came out earlier this year that said that not only is almost $8 billion saved nationally through automated permitting systems like Solar App, but approximately 700,000 new good paying local jobs can be created in this industry. Next slide, please. The Solar App is truly as easy as 1, 2, 3, although the code underlying it is much more complicated. So this is the basic workflow. An installer would submit an application with design specs through this tool. The tool checks the application to ensure that the system design is code compliant. And then the code compliant application is issued a permit instantly. And for permits that sometimes take jurisdictions upwards of several weeks to approve, this would reduce it down to instant. Again, if it's the type of system where it might be at most 2 panels, 1 inverter. So the most commonplace residential applications that your jurisdictions get. Next slide, please. We have done a lot together, and some of you had the opportunity to attend this event that's in the top right photo with DOE Secretary Granholm. Secretary Granholm has taken a very hands-on interest in getting as many jurisdictions across the nation as possible to adopt this tool. And she challenged 125 local governments to commit to adopting this tool, and 127 of them answered the call. And of those, about half were in California, and I'm very proud of this figure. 33% of them or so were in the Bay Area. Now, the other thing that we were able to accomplish is we got $20 million into the California budget. And I already mentioned that Solar App is free for jurisdictions to adopt, but of course there are soft costs or indirect costs associated with getting staff members up to speed. And so this money, which is sufficient for every jurisdiction in California, would be administered in the form of non-competitive grants through the California Energy Commission, starting sometime in the middle of next year. So we have had several jurisdictions that have gone live with this tool. Pleasant Hill was one of the first 3 in the nation, followed by Menifee, and then just 2 weeks ago, Simi Valley. And Sonoma County, we're doing a press release, so this will be official on Monday, but Sonoma County just became the latest local jurisdiction to go live with this tool. The other really exciting aspect of this that I wanted to mention, and the reason it's called Solar App Plus, is we are piloting PV plus storage, given that storage, as you all know, is increasingly becoming something that customers purchase at the same time that they also purchase solar. There are several jurisdictions that are in the pilot process right now, and there are actually going to be several more that will be joining in the next week. And I see some of these jurisdictions are yours, so congratulations. And I am very much looking forward to, we can go to the next slide, connecting with all of you. And better than this link that no one is going to remember, I'm going to put my contact info in the chat, and we would love to set up a meeting with your jurisdiction. We can tailor it for an elected officials like yourself, or we can also tailor it to the authority having jurisdiction, which in many cases will be the building official, a planning director, a sustainability officer. We would love to walk you through this tool and let you know how, to make sure that this is a tool that works for your jurisdiction. But it is already well underway, and it has saved the jurisdictions where it has been piloted lots of money already. And we look forward to connecting with all of you in the EBCE service area to walk you through Solar App. So I look forward to hearing from you and happy to answer any questions. Have a wonderful evening.
Great, thank you, Igor from California Solar and Storage Association. Staff, can you please stop sharing screen? And colleagues, I'd be happy to take any questions at this time. Excuse me, the first hand I see is Member Harrison in Berkeley.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tregu, can you address this? This can be both a standalone application and also be integrated into planning department's current software. Is that correct?
That is correct. We allow for both, and we currently work with the most commonplace applications, including Acela, Trackit, and eTrackit, Central Square, Tyler Gov, InterGov, and a few others.
Thank you very
much. Next up, we have Member Hannon from Newark.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Igor, thank you for the report. I don't know if we can ever make it easier than what you've just described for this process to allow for solar energy to be provided. Are we finding that there are many rogue type organizations or businesses that are out there selling or installing solar without proper permits? Can you give me a sense as to whether or not that's an issue?
I can tell you that, our trade association, which is the largest one for renewable energy in California, representing 700 plus, mostly small businesses, we have very high ethical standards for someone to join our organization. So if someone was a quote unquote fly-by-night contractor, that would not, their membership with us would not reflect well on anyone, including ourselves. That being said, we have heard stories, usually they're anecdotal, but what I will tell you about Solar App is it's set up where jurisdictions retain the power to kick someone off the app. So if it's a contractor that continues to make unscrupulous decisions, for instance, Solar App actually won't allow you to game the system easily or at all. But let's say someone fills out a fraudulent Solar App report, and then the inspector comes on site and notices the as found condition is totally different. The jurisdiction retains the power to remove someone from using the app. Also, because the assumption of liability is really important, and this is something that we have worked on with several local jurisdictions, it's very clear right at the top that it's the installer, not the jurisdiction, that assumes ultimate liability if something goes wrong.
Does that answer your question, Member Hannon?
It does, Madam Chair. My only concern, of course, is always the kind of the buyer beware. You know, this is no reflection on this organization or the organizations that participate, because they certainly appear and sound to be above board. I'm always just worried about the unsuspecting property owner that has somebody come by, knock on their door and offer them, you know, solar energy at a significantly reduced cost, and unsuspecting, you know, they get involved in such a situation. So it's really no reflection on this organization or what they're trying to do. I'm just worried about the unsuspecting property owner that might just find themselves in a situation to which is going to cost them significantly at the end of the day. But I appreciate the presentation.
And that's a really good point. And just to address it briefly, we as an association have safeguards that we have developed on something like that happening. Now we cannot control what non-members do, but we have a number of resources on our website. I will put that in the chat, where folks can just go in and look for a list of reputable contractors, and happy to talk to you more offline if you have additional questions on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Igor, for providing additional resources to answer more questions. Member Kalb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually wanted to go back to the other part of the CEO report, but let me just say on the solar app, we had a presentation to the Oakland planning staff and other staff, and I just texted them a little while ago saying, hey, what's up? What's the process? They're still going through it. Our sustainability manager is nudging them along, so we're working on it. We haven't yet adopted it, but we're trying to do it, and I hope other cities do the same thing. So thank you, Igor, for that. I want to get back to the net energy metering, 3.0, for rooftop solar. I'd like to recommend that we have a special EBC board meeting on December 3rd. That's a Friday at 1:30. That would immediately follow the already regularly scheduled executive committee meeting, where we could adopt a resolution as a board, in addition to the letter that Nick will send, adopt a resolution as a board to the PUC commissioners on this matter. No reason for us to wait 2 weeks later when we have our next board meeting, if we could do it a little earlier. So I'd like to recommend that we do that, and hopefully most of the board members can attend and vote on that. And I'm working on drafting resolution, and of course, not only have I had conversations with the solar industry and others, but I'll of course work with Nick and our chair and vice chair on the wording before we bring it to that meeting. But Madam Chair, is it appropriate to do a scheduling motion now, or should that wait till the end of the meeting?
I would just check in with council. Could we go ahead and take a vote, or by acclamation schedule something for a date certain? Inder, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just as a clarifying question, would this be direction to staff? I'm trying to understand what exactly is being scheduled.
A special meeting to address a resolution on NEM 3.0. Is that correct?
Yes. So yeah, you can give direction to staff to go ahead and work on a special meeting, and I think that can occur at any time sort of outside the Brown Act, since it would be ultimately Nick and Howard would likely reach out to board members to determine availability for a special meeting.
Yeah, and we're suggesting a date certain, which is 1:30 p.m. correct, on Friday, December 3rd. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, that was that's the recommendation. That was Nick's recommendation as well.
Yeah. And so
Yes, yep.
that seems to coincide with the tail end of the executive board meeting. So those folks should be available. But we can have staff confirm that. And do we need to take a roll call vote on that, Inder?
Well, I think you could bundle this either as a separate motion now, or with your motion on that's before, that will be before you here. I think you could bundle it all together, or you could do it separately, just to assess that board members would be available on that date, and to give clear direction to staff to go ahead and schedule it.
Yeah, I think the CEO report is generally an information item, so I think that's the.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we need, so we need to do a roll call vote is the question, or is direction by acclamation kind of
Well,
appropriate?
I was
Inder,
thinking of this
you
more
had
in-
indicated,
more as direction to staff and less as an action
Right.
item, since this is agendized as informational. So I think it would maybe just the, a general nodding of heads would be fine here, and a roll call vote
Okay,
doesn't seem necessary.
Nick, did you want to comment?
oh, no, I think Inder covered it.
Okay, very good. So without objection, colleagues, that's how we'll do it. Staff will work with Member Kalb to get a special meeting on our calendar, aiming for 1:30 on December 3rd to address a resolution for NEM 3.0. And I will say, with Member Kalb's experience and his willingness to dive into this issue, I don't think there's anyone better on this board to do a draft resolution on this. And I thank him for his diligence. And I do see your hand raised, Anna Olivia, so I see the floor to you.
It's not on this item. I had my hand raised for comment, so, but you do this if you, or should I just go into comment? It's not on the special meeting.
It's not on the special, okay, go ahead. Yeah, we're on the CEO report. Is it on the CEO report?
Yes, it is.
Okay, go ahead.
So thank you, Igor. It's really cool to see this. It's a really exciting development. I'm also really happy to hear you talk about the employment portion of the solar industry, which now employs more people than the investor-owned utilities do in electricity in the state of California, which was really cool. So Anne is enjoying stronger and growing unionization rates, which is now equaled out to the rest of the country, which has been an issue in the past, but is getting better. And this employment in our communities is another reason to have a strong NEM policy in place. I was going to request that on this issue in Nick's report, the sample letter is not actually linked on the website. It's not provided in, I think that it's just an issue with how the PDF was uploaded, because the place that you would normally click to see the sample letter isn't there. So I'm sure that can be addressed, but I was hoping you could just run real quick through what, in support of sustainable NEM policy, what that looks like, just to give us an idea of the direction of that, since the letter isn't there for us to check. And thank you for being proactive on that step. It's really important.
Let me see if we can find the San Diego, the San Diego letter. It's a couple pages long, but maybe I'll just paraphrase. I think what the San Diego letter highlights is the importance of ensuring that a NEMS 3 or NEM successor policy that is adopted by the state is one that continues to support ongoing adoption of solar by customers across the spectrum. Certainly, include policies that maintain an emphasis on supporting and encouraging low and moderate income solar adoption as well. So that's a very high level. Igor, you're very familiar with the letter. Did I cover sort of the high points there?
Got it. Well done.
Yeah, I've read the letter as well, and equity was a focus, as well as sustainable growth for the industry. So it was pretty broad, and I think, Anna Olivia, if we get to a special meeting with a resolution, we could get into the specifics of what we, as a CCA, would like to see.
It's fantastic. Again, thank you for being really proactive on this.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'd like to pause and ask Madam Clerk if we have anyone who has submitted speaker cards for the CEO report, which is currently item 8.
Yes, we have one person who submitted a speaker card, and then I noticed in the attendee window, I believe 4 people have raised their hands.
Very good. Let's go ahead and recognize those speakers with a speaker card first, and then the folks in the order that you see fit.
Give me just one moment to get set up. Okay, and the person that signed up on the speaker card, I believe their name is, sorry, Jada. So Jada, I'm going to unmute you, and then when you're ready, just let me know and then I'll start the timer. Okay, I believe
Thanks.
you're unmuted.
Yes, thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. This is Jada Durmaz-Dogan with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. Thanks, Igor, for the informative presentation. And my comment will be about net energy metering. As Barbara mentioned earlier, local rooftop solar plays an essential role in democratization and decentralization of our energy system. And having a tariff program such as net energy metering is important to encourage local on-site solar in all the communities and especially in low-income communities. So we support EBC's action to submit a letter to CPUC in support of rooftop solar, but I agree with Anne Olivia that it would be good to have access to it. Also, I support Dan Kelp's proposal, and we urge the EBC board to adopt a resolution that will encourage the expansion of rooftop solar and local clean energy jobs in California. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, should I move on to those that have raised their hand in the speaker or in the attendees panel?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start with the person whose name appears as Vaughn. Okay, Vaughn, you're now able to talk, and when you're ready, just let me know and I'll press start.
I'm assuming you can hear me?
Yes.
I had 3 questions for Igor. One, does the application cover just storage if you don't have solar, or if the solar is not available in your house, but you want to shave usage during the peak time by powering it up during the evening or whatever? A second question is, could you give an example of a project that wouldn't not be able to use the solar app? And the third thing is the application tied to technology in any way? Because both solar panels and storage is in for drastic changes over the next 5 to 10 years. Obviously, software gets changed more often than that, probably, but you wouldn't want to be locked into some sort of technology, especially if storage gets to the point where there's 12 or 24 hour for home use type of thing, or for rural areas. Thank you.
Igor, hold your answers to those questions until the end of public comment, and I'll give you an opportunity at the end. Megan, do we have a next person up?
Yep, the next person whose hand is raised is Blair Beekman. Blair, you've been unmuted, so when you're ready, I'll start the timer.
Thank you. Vaughn really offers some interesting answers, stuff to really consider. Thank you for that. A reminder that in natural disaster preparedness and planning, it's a well-established tradition of city government and community. And it can help better develop ideas of reimagine equity, green sustainability, health and human services, and community public services that we're all considering at this time. That could be a good formula to use, and how to develop health and human services ideas for ourselves at this time. It is from this the good practices of renewable energy and its local procurement, open public policies with technology, and preparing for good ELI, VLI, and mixed income affordable housing ideas can allow us a quicker transition to return to our better good practices and ideals sooner, much sooner, after any Bay Area natural disasters in the next few years or decade. thank you. That's like a formula I have that I've developed, if needed, for ourselves in the next few years. And the work that we're doing towards solar has been pretty awesome, I think, and really hopeful. And I just wanted to remind yourselves of that at this time. And what we can do with renewables at this time is really hopeful. And we've adjusted IPR reports from the past few years that can be much more up to date. And I think that are wanting to address, AB 1139, and that was taken down with the good work and efforts that I think we're doing to, move on and move forward. So thanks for all your work on solar ideas, and what we can really accomplish for our future is idealistic. And it's that idealistic then can really pull us through difficult times and become our regular good practices. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more. Audrey. You're unmuted and I'm starting the timer.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Audrey Chinose, East Bay Clean Power Alliance, and of course, the statewide California Alliance for Community Energy. I have two comments, and they may seem unrelated, but I think in the context of the IOU's domination or sort of control over so much of CCA's activities, they are related. One is, I applaud the intent, really strong intent of this organization to submit a letter to the CPUC in support of the sustainable NEM policy. And I have read the San Diego letter, and it's really very good. Everybody should get to read that letter and formulate EBCE's own letter likewise. The second point is I was not able to attend the Finance Committee meeting. So I wonder if someone can quickly give me a summary of what EBCE can expect in the way of the PCIA costs this year. And if more than 1 year in the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I believe that's our last speaker. Nick, do you want to respond to the PCIA question?
Oh gosh, that's a very complicated question, not on this agenda item.
Right. Very good. I would like to, is Igor still in the room with us?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to Speaker Vaughn, and he had a series of 3 questions. But if you could endeavor to be brief, Igor, so we can move on to our next item soon.
Certainly, Madam Chair, and also thank you, Nick, and thank you to the board for giving me this opportunity to present. The first question was, do the Solar App allow for just storage? And it does not. More and more, we're finding that PV customers go to get, when they purchase a PV system, at that same time, they're also investing in storage, which is another reason that kind of a counter argument to what will hopefully be our or EBCE's NEM 3 position is like, batteries will not save us. If the industry dies out, if the behind the meter industry dies out from a bad CPUC decision, then there will be no solar and there would be no storage available, at least with local solutions. The question about what an example of a project that is right now does not work with Solar App. Pretty much anything outside of single family homes, unless they're historical structures, or outside of duplexes, and it can also be a home with a ADU on the lot. There is a roadmap, and it does include certain innovations. And so My personal hope and dream is that eventually we can get to multifamily, but it will take, eventually we will get to EV charging technology that can be done through Solar App. So those things are on our roadmap, and we are continuing to innovate on those. But mostly the National Renewable Energy Lab, along with our member companies that are helping develop the tool. And then what I think I kind of answered that as part of the third question, but a recent innovation that just came online is building integrated PV. That is now online in certain applications, and it works through Solar App. So we're continuing to innovate based on how quickly technology is getting better and getting more versatile. So hopefully that answers your 3 questions.
Thank you, Igor. I know that Solar App will make a lot more sense for my community when multifamily is included and EV, but appreciate your answers. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and move on to item 10, which is a review of our energy prepay transaction. It's an information item that has 2 attachments on our agenda, and I will cede the floor to staff for a presentation.
I'm happy to present. Anna Olivia Eldridge has her hand raised, and we skipped over item number 9, so I didn't know if that was intentional or just
That was not intentional, and it is my apology. And I'm just all over the place tonight. Apologies, Anna Olivia. We have not done the Community Advisory Committee report, to which I cede the floor to Anna Olivia Eldred.
Thank you, Chair. And you have more than one agenda that you're trying to work with, so it's just fine. Well, greetings, everyone. It is good to be back, especially seeing so many new faces. So folks who are new or I haven't met before, I have been with EBCE since before we launched. I was the founding chair of the Community Advisory Committee and have stepped back into the role as we welcome and orient our new expanded Community Advisory Committee. So thank you for appointing those people and giving us 2 new members today. It's really exciting. The most substantive request that came out of the CAC meeting was a unanimous motion to do what just happened, asking the board to agendize NEM 3.0 and to both take a strong position and also concrete action in support of preserving this important tool for our community. Several of our members have been hearing quite a lot from the constituencies that they represent, so we are glad that the board is taking this as seriously as our community is feeling it. There was also additional discussion of ongoing funding for the local innovation grants and the relative position of EBCE's emissions regarding the power content labels. And personally, I just want to say thank you to Nick Chassett for his vote last week at CC Power and for advocating for some kind of policy that preserves both labor and EJ issues. And that is all. We look forward to welcoming our members at the next meeting.
Great, thank you, folks. Are there any questions for the chair of our Community Advisory Committee? Okay, seeing none, this is an information item, and now we can go ahead and move on to item 10. So Howard, do you get taking this one?
Yes, I am. And I'll just.
Oh, apologies, Madam Chair. Blair Beekman raised his hand.
Yeah, Blair, we are not taking public comment on the CAC report. It is an information item on which we are not deliberating. So if you wish to comment on item 10, just hold tight to your seat and we'll get to you.
Great. And I have shared screen here for item number 10. Item number 10 is an informational item on the prepay energy transaction. I will try to keep this brief because I know we have a few additional action items following this. As the board is well aware, we have presented this concept of an energy prepay transaction a number of times over the course of the last year. And in the July board meeting, the board voted to approve moving forward with energy prepaid transaction. At that time, it was authorization to do so, and we had to monitor the markets and see if rates were optimal to be able to execute on such a transaction. I'm very pleased to announce that we have been able to execute on that transaction in the September timeframe. And as noted in that item, we wanted to bring this back and just summarize the results of that and share how that sort of turned out. So a few key details there. As a reminder, this was a joint energy prepaid transaction with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and we utilized Morgan Stanley as the bond underwriter and the energy prepaid supplier. The transaction closed on September 23rd. While we would have presented this in October, the October meeting was a fairly full agenda, so we just pushed this out since it was informational. The overall sizing of the transaction ended up just a little shy of $1.5 billion in total bond proceeds. A very large number, excited by that, and the appetite there was in the market for such a bond. The principal amount was about $1.2 billion. The difference there really is just associated with what is typical in a bond pricing process, where there's typically a little bit of a premium on there. So really the proceeds number is what is critical there. Those were the dollars that were raised. It did receive a municipal bond rating of A1, and it was green bond certified. And in terms of volumes related to this transaction, EBCE is taking approximately 54% of the power that flows through the transaction and the sort of associated discount with that, and Silicon Valley is taking 46%. And that equates, at least for the first 10 years, with EBCE taking 59 megawatts worth around the clock and Silicon Valley taking 50 megawatts around the clock. That proportion will be maintained over the 30-year life of this transaction, but the actual volumes, as we reset bonds every 7 to 10 years, are subject to change and expected to increase over the 30-year life. Some of the just real quick key dates. Again, this is a 30-year transaction. This first bond pricing is a 10-year term, so we will need to reprice in 10 years' time. And it will be determined then what the sort of optimal tenors will be for the bonds, but we anticipate it's probably somewhere in the 7 to 10 year timeframe. The bond issuance date was September 7th, and ultimately it closed on September 23rd. And the initial power will flow for this transaction starting January 1, 2022. So it has not yet started to flow yet, but in a little less than 2 months it will. And of course, as a 30-year transaction, if the ultimate maturity of the bonds will be February 1, 2052. I have listed out quite a number of parties here. We have brought most of these parties to the board in prior meetings for approval, so I will certainly not take the time to read through them all right now. But I'll just note, obviously EBCE and Silicon Valley jointly issued this. As I noted, we work with Morgan Stanley. Our municipal advisor was PFM, and then a whole number of various councils serving on the transaction itself. Just a couple more sections. One is there, of course, are quite a number of sort of action items and next steps with a transaction of this sort. So, some of the things that we listed out just as examples are we will be seeking an arbitrage rebate agent, which is necessary from a tax perspective to ensure that the rates of returns are compliant. We have some ongoing continued disclosure training that we need to do to ensure if there are any material changes to EBCE or CCCFA that we will properly disclose that information since there are bonds issued here. And then, of course, we will continually work on future PPA assignments to cycle through this type of transaction. I think last but certainly not least, I think the most exciting news to share really is that through this transaction, EBC has secured over $2 million in annual savings in our energy costs. And that is locked in for the first 10-year period. Of course, beyond that is when we would do a bond repricing, that would get reset. But there is a minimum savings requirement that we have agreed to contractually, which is $2 per megawatt hour. We hope to be well above that, but it does at least set a floor there. And I think that's really it. I'll end with that great punchline news. The attachment, which is listed as 10B in the agenda, is our official statement. It's a very large document. I will certainly not screen share that here, but it is provided for reference, which is really a significant summary of the entire transaction and what is used to market the bonds to investors. And that concludes this item.
Great, thank you, Howard. That was a very concise report for all of the work that you and the team have conducted over a lengthy period of time. So at first, I will check in with the board to see if there are any questions on this item. This is an issue that we have heard repeatedly. However, there's always more to learn about the prepaid transaction. Vice Chair Lopez, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to comment. Thank you very much, Howard, for all your amazing work here and blazing a trail and it being quite successful. I was looking at the red herring, which is the name of the document, of the large document and your staff report. So a savings for EBCE, clearing, making a path forward for other CCAs and doing something first of its kind. Thank you very much for all your work and effort here.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions at this time? If not, I'm going to go check in with our clerk and see if anyone has submitted a speaker card or if anyone else would like to be recognized for public comment.
Hi, Madam Chairman. Double checking speaker cards for this is item 10. No cards for item 10, but Blair Beekman has raised his hand in the attendee section. So
there 2 minutes.
Okay, Blair,
Yeah.
you're unmuted.
I'm officially unmuted. Hello. Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. I submitted 4 cards on item 10. That was technically on from the previous agenda, but I meant them for item 10 and I don't know, just to note. So anyway, to continue, thanks for your patience in my learning to try to talk about natural disaster preparedness ideas. And I tried to use the ideas of health and human services and, the importance of, this sort of work. What I haven't mentioned yet is, and what I think connects with this item, interestingly, is it wasn't fully explained, I don't think. Is this kind of the work of how it can help low-income people? It can provide services for them better and easier and more efficiently. And I thank you for that. I'm really interested in, the subsidy help that low-income people can receive at this time through the EBCE. I just wanted to remind and offer, I hope that process can be open and accessible to low-income people. And that isn't a fear to do that. And there's also an important component to learn how to explain to everyday community that it doesn't have to be fearful. And that's a real gift to know how to be able to do that. And so I just wanted to wish you luck in those efforts and that we shouldn't have to fear the subsidy process. And it can be a useful, good thing in terms of community energy use at this time. So thank you. And if someone can explain a bit more about this item, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other hands raised for public comment, I will just join in Vice Chair Lopez's gratitude for staff for all of the hard work on the energy prepaid transaction. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again, that I'm really happy to be on equal footing with the legacy IOUs in terms of, the procurement of natural gas, for instance, because these instruments are available to those industries. Why shouldn't they be available to renewable energy as well? So That will move us on to item 11. We are at the low and moderate income electrification program, and I will cede the floor to staff for the presentation.
So Becky Menton from our staff is going to be presenting.
Yes, hello, I'm here. I
No,
wasn't
so
sure if you were.
before we, before we present, I'm sorry, I just had a buzzing there going. I did just want to kind of give a little bit of further context before Becky presents this item. So this item is in direct response to actions this board took in June when the board increased our local development budget by $250,000 and directed staff to go forth and identify and develop opportunities to deploy those $250,000 to support low and moderate income electrification. So I just wanted to contextualize this item, and I'll give it to Becky to go from there.
Yeah, Becky, I think we've got a technological issue on your end. Do you have more than one device, or that's got sound working?
Yeah, but Becky, no.
No, so I'm only joining audio by my phone. So I've been muting on my phone when I'm unmuted on the
I think your
panel
phone
until I'm ready
is,
to speak.
what we may need you to do is to get off the Zoom video and just present by phone. I think there's something about the two that are interacting and
It might be
causing
your
feedback.
cellular service like affecting something with your Zoom, because there's an interaction with the audio there.
Okay, let me try briefly just hanging up and joining by computer audio. And if that doesn't work, I can call back in, and I apologize for the issues here.
Yeah.
You're
So
not the only one
maybe
having
while Becky is doing that, I will just also note there's been some commentary about community grants, and in this year's budget there was actually not a specific allocation of local development funds to community innovation grants. Rather, those funds were specifically earmarked for community grants to support outreach related to the arrearage management program, incremental care enrollment, and the general topic of affordability and supporting our customers who have large outstanding utility debts. Okay, Becky, are you
Yeah, so hopefully this
ready to go?
Getting weird feedback noise or anything. Okay, great.
No, it's great.
Ready to go. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here this evening with you all. I'm very excited to present on this item. I'll be sharing the stage with a few members of the Block Power team. But to start off, Madam Acting Clerk, if you would not mind scrolling us down to the beginning of the presentation, that should be attached at the bottom of the board memo. While we're getting there, the item that I'm here to talk to you about is a proposed program to serve the low to moderate income customers within EBCE's service area, with a program designed to provide energy efficiency and electrification upgrades to their homes. So we can move on from there. So just briefly to start off, I find it's really helpful to contextualize a little bit about EBCE's customer base. About 91% of all of our customer accounts are residential accounts. That's not proportion of load share, of course, that's just the proportion of accounts, but that's a pretty big chunk of all the customers that we serve on a number basis. Within that, 22% of our customers qualify for the CARE rate. This is a subsidized energy rate available to customers at 200% of the federal poverty level. I would add a little further color to say that that means that these are customers who are at the very low income level of our service area. Another 46.5% are renters, and almost 10% live in an area that's been classified by the Cal EnviroScreen tool as a disadvantaged community. These are census tract regions that are subject to very high amounts of environmental pollution and tend to have lower income as well. So all of that to say that there's great need within our customer base for a program like this. We can scroll down. Electrification of homes has been linked to several benefits. One is that they're clean and healthy. When you think about it, combusting a carbon-based fuel inside your home produces byproducts of that are then available in your ambient air. Moving away from combustion of fuels as a source of energy into electricity allows for improvements to the indoor air quality benefits. I also know I don't need to reiterate for this crowd that electric appliances can be powered by renewable energy, whereas their natural gas counterparts will always be reliant on a form of carbon-based fuel. That's healthier for the environment as a whole. These improvements can be affordable for the homeowners as well, particularly when they're combined with energy efficiency. We found that the combination of energy efficiency and electrification can help reduce energy costs. Another thing that this brings to our customers is protection against future rate cases or future rate increases. And I'll talk more about that in a moment or two. Scroll down a bit. One of the things that we have seen about programs that have typically served customers in California is that there's been a reliance on incentive programs or rebate programs. What this means is that a customer needs to make an upfront investment and then receives a reduction on the cost of that upfront investment through the form of a rebate or incentive. We have seen over time that this has not served our lower and moderate income customers well. Even in the case of $5,000 to $6,000 rebates, which can be very generous, when you're dealing with the $12,000 to $35,000 project cost, that still leaves the customer needing to cover $10,000 to $20,000, maybe more in some cases, in order to participate in the program. As we've seen in the past with some programs, just by the virtue of providing the subsidy in the form of a rebate, some customers have been excluded from participating. I think this is very on topic these days because of the revisions that are proposed to the NEM rate. We know that many customers who were able to take advantage of solar panels early on were customers who had more cash on hand. What we're trying to avoid is reiterating that mistake or repeating that mistake with the electrification movement. We're now trying to find programs that we can offer to electrify homes that are accessible to customers. What we found that means is that we really need to provide a no upfront cash solution so that folks can get in and participate without having to come up with $10,000 to $25,000. I mentioned I'd come back to the rate increase issue, and this impacts our frontline communities most of all. As in California, gas infrastructure costs are paid for in the gas rate, and electric infrastructure costs are paid for in the electric rate. What this means is that as more and more customers move towards fully electric homes and abandon the gas infrastructure, the pool of gas ratepayers left to cover the costs of those infrastructure expenditures will be smaller and smaller, and resulting in an increase in those gas rates. We want to make sure that those folks who are left holding the bag on the gas infrastructure bill are not left there because they did not have the choice or the option to electrify their home. We want to make sure that these programs can be available to help with that transition. Additionally, as I mentioned, about 10% of our customers are in disadvantaged communities. Opening your window to vent the gas from your gas stove might be an option unless you live in an area with a really high predominance of air pollution outside. We want to make sure that customers who live in those areas that are really impacted by air pollution can help take advantage of these electric buildings for the purposes of improving the health of their indoor air quality. And scroll down a little bit. So this is a brief reiteration of the proposal we're bringing tonight. We'll come back to this at the end of the presentation. Overall, what we're proposing is a $1.4 million investment in EBCE's frontline communities. $1 million will be brought forward in the form of junior debt to be available as project capital for these projects. Ultimately, our position in junior debt will allow Block Power, who's our partner on this, to reduce the customer interest rate that they offer, helping to make this a better value proposition to our customers. We know, however, that financing alone can't be a solution, particularly for some of the very low income customers. And therefore, we're also earmarking $400,000 to be available for incentives and rebates. These incentives are going to be designed to cover 80% of the energy costs for our low income customers, our care customers. Overall, the eligibility of this program spans from care eligibility up to 120% of area median income. The reason for this large spread is that even though we have a high predominance of very low income customers, we also know that moderate income customers who are very willing and interested in investing in their homes frequently also do not have liquidity on hand to make these kinds of investments. So we'd like the solution to be available for our low to moderate income customers, whereas we're targeting our financial incentives to the lower income customers who we know are going to need a little more help. One thing I'd like to mention is that this is a very highly leveraged investment. Our $1 million in junior debt will be leveraged 4-to-1 against other capital that our partner Block Power raises. The incentives that we're making available will be stackable with other incentives available throughout the region, including those offered by BayREN and the Emerging Tech Program. So overall, these dollars are going to be very highly leveraged. Scroll down. So at this point, I believe I have the pleasure of introducing Grace, who is joining us tonight to speak on the slides on behalf of Block Power. Grace, are you here and available?
Yes, thank you, Becky. You all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to share about Block Power and the work we're excited to be doing to electrify more homes and bring clean, healthy homes for all, to all in the East Bay. Block Power is a Black-owned clean climate tech company founded in 2014. We're based here in Brooklyn, New York, but we have been working in Oakland as part of our California expansion. It is a core to our mission that we are serving for all low and moderate income communities that have, as Becky mentioned before, been historically left out of much of the clean energy transition. In working to convert homes from fossil fuels to electricity, we are indeed improving indoor air quality and otherwise bringing not just financial but health benefits to communities. And we are using technology to help us both target and convert our customers. Next slide, please. This is yet another reminder of the emphasis we're putting on health. This is something of more significant concern in environmental justice communities, whereas mentioned earlier, the outdoor air quality can be quite poor. This is demonstrated in communities such as Richmond, such as Oakland, West Oakland in particular, and many other folks that are lining highways. In general, many of us, all of us face this issue during wildfire season, which is increasingly taking over aspects of our calendar. And so cleaning up our indoor air will be increasingly important and a matter of health benefits year-round. Ventilation is a piece of this, and as Becky mentioned, this is a fully enabling program where we're not just offering the discounts, we're not just offering the incentives, we are working to enable a zero down package for folks to take advantage of these technologies without having significant capital on hand. Next slide, please. In our zero down model, we have 15-year terms, 15 to 20-year terms, depending. We also incorporate operations and maintenance in many of our contracts. And generally speaking, we are looking to make this as affordable as possible, meaning we are looking to make as much of these payments fit in the savings of energy efficiency savings that we do as part of our projects. That's not a guarantee. We are not an ESCO exactly, though that is a helpful analogy for how we operate. In that we are seeking affordability, we are looking to make sure that customers can confidently pay for their bills through the energy savings and while still taking advantage of upgrades to their home. An important aspect in that we deal with low and moderate income communities is we do not put the title of the home at risk. There's no lien on the property, which is especially important given a lot of the unfortunate effects of some of the financing opportunities that have targeted underserved communities in the past. In addition, we have an expansive underwriting process that does not just look at FICO scores. We do log that for our records as well, but we are looking at a more comprehensive and holistic picture of the customer's ability to pay in our underwriting process. Next slide, please. And this is something that we hope to expand further as we continue to develop our work in East Bay community. In our initial pilot projects here in West Oakland, we have been looking to deliver living wage jobs in coordination with our electrification projects. Workforce development is a key pillar of how we bring wealth and health, not just to the homes that we operate in or the houses of worship or small commercial, more broadly. It's also about making sure that that wealth stays in the community through local contractor networks, headed by minority and women-owned businesses, as well as to the workers who are able to upskill their expertise from simple tasks all the way up to more complex and well-compensated ones. We have learned quite a bit as we've operated in this past year and a half during COVID, and we are looking to leverage those lessons as we expand this program to the entire East Bay with the partnership of EBCE. Next slide, please. I think that might be the last one. Oh, back to you then, Becky.
Yep, back to me. Thank you. So as promised, I wanted to reiterate again the ask that we're seeking tonight. Overall, we would like authorization for CEO to negotiate and execute an agreement with Block Power. That agreement would encapsulate $1.4 million total investment. A little bit of information about where that's coming from. $500,000 were allocated in this year's program budget for a low to moderate income electrification program. We're taking advantage of the additional $250,000 that was discussed at the top of this item that was allocated for investment in frontline communities. And then we'll be asking again to make ourselves whole on the total investment in the following fiscal year budget. Overall, it's about $1 million in project capital in a junior debt position at 5.5% interest rate and $400,000 in incentives targeted to the care and lower income customers. This is a proposal for a sole source with Block Power. We've searched the market. Block Power's electrification as a service approach is unique. Their focus on low to moderate income communities, in addition to that, is exceptionally unique. Block Power already has great engagement and partnerships with local contractors, including some that are familiar to us, such as Revalue, and they've been working with Cypress Mandela organization on workforce development. We're hoping that this investment will be able to enable electrification and energy efficiency for 70 EBCE customers over this following year. We also are hoping that this is a very successful pilot, and if so, we'll be seeking opportunities to scale. We'll be coming back to the board with ideas for that moving forward, assuming we're successful. And I apologize for the type. It's supposed to come to October board meeting, but we're here instead. And that concludes the presentation we prepared for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Great presentation. And thank you, Grace, for joining from Block Power. Colleagues, now we'll entertain questions from the board. And first up, I see Anne Olivia Eldred.
Chair, and thank you for that fabulous presentation. I got to see it at the Community Advisory Committee meeting, but it had a whole nother element with you there, and it was really great. So thank you. I do want to say that the advisory committee spoke really favorably both of this proposal and of the work that Block Power is doing, especially with the community connections and support of small local minority and women-owned businesses. So just really recognizing the success of that work and how well it seems to be putting into play. There were some concerns, not about the program itself, but specific things that we want to make sure are addressed in that, and we appreciate the opportunity to bring them to you. So there were equity concerns raised regarding access, affordability, and impacts for program participants. Of specific concern was the cost to upgrade panels and infrastructure in much of the current housing stock in the Bay Area. A lot of our homes are old and built prior to when there were air ducts and things like that inside of buildings. So doing an electrification retrograde on any building built prior to 1920 is exceptionally costly, and really from 1940 to 1970, pretty hit and miss. After 1970, it's pretty good. But really wanting to make sure that the limited program funds that were there get targeted to where they can do the most good. That target of 70 households seems like a very small pilot, and we're concerned that it may not be enough to adequately answer questions of like cost per household, and if landlords are participating and complying, and if they, how they respond, as well as equity concerns around renter protections, avoiding increased internal displacement, which we already suffer from a lot, and also the issue around permitting. So if there is a requirement that that if you do an upgrade in your home, then you have to do this electrification upgrade, then what would happen in my house is that we just wouldn't get anything fixed. So, you know, we look forward to seeing how you hope to address those issues because you will run into them. We would like to see a really thorough analysis on the real life costs of electrical appliances after installation to show that the efficiency expected is actualized, especially as the cost of gas is really low. Switching over to electricity could actually result in a net increase in folks' bills. So we just want to make sure that we don't have undesirable consequences that sours the public on the concept of electrification. And then the other component was making sure that the appliances that we use are really efficient. Buildings contribute 10% of our greenhouse gas emissions, but only if you include the refrigerants inside of things like heat pump water heaters and stuff like that. The actual amount of gas that is burned for heat or on our stove is a really pretty small amount of that number. So if we're reducing a small amount of that number and replacing it with, like, the most common heat pump water heater is 2,088 times more greenhouse gas emissions than equivalents than carbon dioxide, whereas the efficient ones are only 675. So just making sure that there's a standard so we end up with a net climate gain instead of breaking even, which you could do if you don't set really rigid standards for those heat pump water heaters. So those are our feedbacks. We do look forward to seeing how those are addressed and do encourage thorough analysis and strong parameters for what is included in our program.
Great, thank you, CAC Chair. Next up, we've got Director Harrison.
Thank you very much. I thought I was third. We in Berkeley are introducing a similar sort of program with a slightly different bent. And so I've been thinking about these issues quite a lot. I did participate in watching today's Power Lunch presentation from your organization, Block Power. So that was pretty interesting. I had a few questions. One, you indicate that there's no lien on the home. Where does the debt, who does that reside with then? The individual, the property? How does that get paid when someone sells their house? As it's not going to be a lien on the home.
Grace, are you comfortable addressing that?
Sorry, I don't know some of these rules, so I don't know what I'm supposed to tell.
Grace, go ahead and answer. Yes.
Thank you. We do file a fixture filing, much like solar has. It just does not put the house at risk in terms of title to the house. So that is there is a fixture filing involved. Yes.
Okay. So it travels with the house. It doesn't stay with the person. Okay. And I'm interested in the whole issue of labor selection. On slide 9, you show some aspirational goals, but are these commitments that you're making to hiring people under prevailing wage? Or what are your labor conditions that you're placing on this?
Right now, we've been relying on our local network of folks who are community organizations that are like-minded and similar mission to kind of safeguard some of this. We are looking to apply prevailing wage where possible and where applicable. We are relying on kind of the network of trust and sorry, the word is on the folks that who've been doing this good work in the community for ages. So working with groups like Cypress Mandela, with Revalue, who is a very critical local partner based in West Oakland. We are making sure that the community that we are tapping to recruit a lot of the folks for the participation in the program, as well as workers to work on their neighbors' homes, are helping us find the right folks.
I'm going to have a hard time voting for anything that doesn't have specific targets about apprenticeship and wage. So I'm just going to say that now, just for everyone to know that that's my feeling about it. And I really appreciate Director Chassett's vote at the larger CCA organization to stand with some of those values. So I, having lived in the Bay Area for a very long time and having experienced a lot of these programs that are, and this is not a criticism of Cypress Mandela, that are aspirational about labor, it often does not happen if we don't have targets. So I'm hoping that you'll consider including labor targets, particularly in the apprenticeship area, that be something very specified and not just a goal. So that would be very helpful to me.
To be clear though, this is
Can I respond? Can I respond? Just
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
just
please.
there for a moment. So what I'll note, Kate, is if you look at, say, our Resilient Home program, where we are doing residential solar and storage, while there are, say, prevailing wage requirements, we don't have associated apprentice requirements, and that at least in that particular context is because the specific apprentice programs that are associated, the specific apprentice programs have not tended to be sort of pathways into residential rooftop solar. So I just want to note that, because I don't want us to be applying a different standard to these projects than we're applying to residential rooftop solar, which we have just been we've been talking about in such sort of supportive terms.
I hear you.
So,
Maybe just
yeah.
if you could address that when you come back to us in October and how you're looking at that issue, that would be great.
So what I do also want to note, though, is a condition of our CSA, so the agreement with Block Power, will require prevailing wage. So the
Okay.
projects
Oh,
that
good.
we are
Thank you.
supporting will have a prevailing wage
you.
requirement. They will not have an apprentice requirement,
Okay.
apprenticeship requirement. And I think when we think about apprenticeship, this is a complicated issue when you start talking about local. So let's just talk about Cypress Mandela as an example, or Rising Sun Energy Center. When you think about apprentice, those are apprentice programs, but not sort of under sort of the technical term. When you think of sort of a technical definition of an apprenticeship program,
Not under IBEW
programs
or
that are
under
associated
the-
with,
yeah.
say, IBEW,
Yeah.
an IBEW, or a local. And
Mhm.
and so there is this tension sometimes between a sort of official apprenticeship program and these local hire pathways. And so the way we've, whether it's through Resilient Home or whether it's through a program like this, is we do require prevailing wage. And so that
That's great.
prevailing wage requirement ensures you have that kind of, we're not lowering the floor.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great to hear. I didn't hear that originally.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
No, I knew. I
wonderful.
think that's
Thank
something
you.
that should have been, we could have noted. So yeah.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I also wanted to talk about the, is this for single family homes specifically, or is it also multifamily?
Well, please, Becky.
I was going to say that for this program, we're targeting single family initially owner occupied. As mentioned in the board memo, we'll be working on a solution for renters to roll into the program in about 6 months. We may serve condos, townhomes, homes that function from a building perspective similarly to single family, but not multifamily units.
Okay, that's great. And have you given any thought to making sure that this is spread geographically? And what I'm concerned about is, it just for my community, is we do not have DACs in Berkeley because our poor people are everywhere. We don't have as many poor people as other parts of the county, but the poor people we have are not concentrated. They are tenants mainly and lower income homeowners that are quite senior. They're all over the city. So I'm hoping this isn't going to focus only on DACs and care. I'm a little worried about that. I'll just tell you what we're doing in Berkeley is working through groups like Rebuilding Together and Habitat for Humanity to identify low-income seniors in particular who often don't qualify for these programs. So, I have to kind of worry about the sort of senior homeowners in Berkeley and who are also least likely to have the information needed to do this on their own. So we have an information gap and we have an income gap. So I'm just hoping that we're not going to focus only on DACs. And I don't know, you don't need to answer that right now, but if so, that would be leaving out large swaths of my constituency. So I want to mention that. And also, are you going to have, you'll have sort of stated standards of the kinds of work that can be done? Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. For our earthquake program, we say you can do brace and bolt, you can do this, you can do that, it must meet these standards. So it'll have that kind of rubric around it about what can be done. Yeah, okay, that's
Yes,
great.
it will.
And also, I thought the number 70 was really low as well. My sustainability department tells me that by adding only $2,500 as an additional incentive, that we can encourage many, many more people to participate. And we're looking with our $1.5 million program to approach about 500 households. So I'm a little surprised by the 70. Is that because you want to completely electrify a home? You're hoping to do a full piece, or is it just are your numbers just more realistic and ours are understated? I'm trying to understand why your costs are so much higher than what we're being told.
For our part, this is based. This is based on our initial pilot of 10 homes that we've completed in Oakland, and that is roughly what we expect the gap to be. If it is less than that in the homes that we face going forward, great. But I think by and large, for many middle-class families, a few $1,000s will be enough to reach the kind of parity for natural gas to electric appliances. For many low and moderate income homes, not only do you have to breach that gap, they're not actually making plans for the capital expense for replacing their gas furnace to begin with. And two, there's quite a bit of remedial work to remove mold and lead and asbestos and other kind of pollutants that kind of, you can't have a heat pump operate in that in those conditions and maintain a healthy home. So I think for homes that start at the starting line for electrification, that may be enough. But for low and moderate income communities, we are talking about folks who are far behind the starting line. And so in order to truly deliver an equitable solution and not an equal one, we do have to bring everyone up to that line.
That helps me quite a lot. And are you going to, but you're not going to require the home become completely electrified. If someone said, I love my
No,
gas stove.
we're going to try as hard as possible.
I don't want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a requirement to be 100% electric, but we will
Okay.
ask for all the technologies that are apply and are possible.
And will you require energy efficiency first before electrification? This is just my other piece.
No, but they do go hand in hand. Oftentimes you do need the ceiling of the home to be up to a certain extent, otherwise that you're going to waste a lot of energy operating in a drafty environment. So for comfort as well as safety, you'd want that sealed.
So, but I guess what I'm trying to understand, if I were a low-income homeowner, you would say you need to do all these things, or could I select what I wanted to do? I'm trying to understand how it's going to be presented to the end customer.
We typically take advantage of the BayREN home energy audits that identify the lowest hanging fruit and just all the efforts that they would recommend for electrification, energy efficiency, and weatherization. We look at this from a holistic package because, again, for many middle-class families, it's a matter of, I'm going to replace this appliance. They'll go do the research and then they'll go replace it. But for a lot of these technologies that are related and have impact to home health and safety, it is kind of a holistic piece here. And especially when you're talking about scenarios with lots of deferred maintenance, it really does make sense to do them all at once as much as possible.
Thank you. And then, yes, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna comment, Councilor Harrison, on sort of the comment that from your staff. I will say, you know, in many of these cases, to support any electrification measure, you may have to, for instance, upgrade a panel. A panel upgrade on its own is going to cost $2,000. So I do think that, unfortunately, $2,500 a home is an extremely optimistic assessment of, you know, what a meaningful level of electrification. You may be able to electrify a single appliance if there's no panel upgrade required for $2,500.
We're looking more at low income, not up to moderate, and we're indicating that we're going to be combining that with other grants. So it's the extra amount needed to make it possible. And I know this is way too technical, but our Energy Commission is telling us not to think about panel upgrades because many appliances are becoming 110. And you know, they're just not sure that's the best way to go, but that's your thing, not mine. But I agree with you. For moderate income, it may never be enough. So, and then I want to ask you just one more question, Nick. I think you said that the source of funds, 250,000, came out of monies that were dedicated for low-income communities. But I think the June minutes said that we were dedicating $250,000 to the community innovation grants. Is this a separate 250 or is it that 250?
Yeah, no, it's those funds. You know, we don't have a specific in the program in the 2021-2022 budget, we actually didn't have a specific earmark for community innovation grants. So the direction the direction I took was to allocate $250,000 for grants for low and moderate income electrification.
Can I read to you? It says a budget amendment, this is from Councilmember Hanlon, for 250,000 for community innovation grants. And I like this idea too. I'm not criticizing this idea, but it says for community innovation grants. I think I don't want that idea to get lost. And I'm hoping as we move through this year that we are going to go back to looking at that, because it was very specific in the measure that was brought forward by Councilmember Hanlon. So I just hope we don't slide over
perhaps
that.
that was a difference of there may have been a difference of sort of translation that may, I'm not going to sort of
Okay,
that's
right.
what the minute
Okay.
said, but I think, you know, when we've gone back and sort of reviewed the discussion, the discussion was very much focused on low and moderate income incentives, not on community innovation grants. So certainly, you know, I think if the view is that these funds should go to community innovation grants, we can pull the item today and not move forward with this. And
No, I'm not
consider,
suggesting that. I'm just suggesting that that was a very specific motion, and that I want to make sure that we keep that in mind as we look at our fiscal picture throughout the rest of the year, and not assume that this 250 that we're now using for a very good program is now gone from something that we voted for. That's all I'm suggesting. So we can talk about that later, perhaps in another meeting, but I'm just concerned about that because I have the minutes and that is what they say. So thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Member Harrison. Next up was Member Cow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just have a few questions, I think. So the repayment, the term to repay, this stays with the property, right? If somebody sells their house, they're gone, and the new owner of the house would presumably, it's in the disclosures, and they would take the rest of it on until it's done. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's a lease that stays with the property because no
Got
one
it.
moves with their heat pumps and water heaters.
Okay, and you said that there's a 5.5% interest rate. Is that, what would that,
That's right.
what did that refer to? What they're gonna pay? That's what they're paying?
They will be paying an effective rate of 5.5% as well.
Okay, and is that, I mean, how did that, right now, that seems a little high. Maybe I'm mistaken. It just seems a little high, given the current. market.
I'm sorry, I'm not our finance person to answer some of these things, but from what I understand, it's not quite, doesn't feel like an unsecured loan, but for comparison purposes, apparently it's similar to one. And for that, it's an extremely low rate, I understand.
Okay, and you'll be able to show then to those customers, even with this 5.5% charge, interest charge, you're still going to save money on your bills.
We don't guarantee that because that's difficult to do with behavioral changes or increased consumption in this direction or other, but we are relying on our BayREN funded home audits to scope the amount of savings we're expecting the home to have. And we're using that to inform what we consider an affordable rate or affordable.
Right, I wouldn't expect you to guarantee a net reduction, but the numbers need to suggest you're gonna save money on your bills even by paying this interest rate, or else most of them aren't gonna do it, right?
We are definitely targeting flat to lower bills net. That is just true. That's not always possible given the extent of the deferred maintenance we are addressing through our program. If this were literally an equipment swap out for something that just works more efficiently, that would be a very easy thing to say. If in the course of the project, you're not just replacing a $10,000 to $13,000 heat pump, but you're also having to weatherize, remediate, deal with asbestos and mold, that is not something that often can just fit. For a lot of these, for this program in particular, frankly, we are talking to folks that are homeowners. So they do have property in the Bay Area. They are not the lowest of the low. They are not, folks that have no assets or income, because we are looking for folks that can pay. But they are also folks who have not been able to keep many of them to keep the upkeep on the home to get them in a place to be able to afford this directly. So I think that's important to kind of keep in mind. These aren't like free programs that we've seen in other utilities done, like SMUD. They've given away thousands of electrification appliances. This is more of a way to bridge the gap from low to moderate income.
I understand. I just want to make sure that the prospective property owners who take advantage of this understand what they're getting into and what the overall benefits are and might not be. That's all. I think you understand what I'm saying.
No, I do. And I think that's a really important question coming as a steward of your constituents. We spend a solid amount of time educating folks on the technology and the health benefits and the implications to their obligations. We feel pretty confident that we are doing a good job of that. We're relying a lot on the track record that we are slowly building to inform kind of the next level of folks. And so making sure that the customers know that this is not free is a big piece of this. We are checking their credit scores. We are checking their credit history. They are signing a lease agreement with us, but it is something that we are doing in good faith with local communities, partners who are very much stewards of their communities. And we're trying to do this by learning from the lessons of previous rounds of financiers addressing communities of color and underserved communities. So there's a tremendous amount of education and turnkey support we need to provide to make these projects happen.
I understand. I just want to make sure that the customers have crystal clarity as to what they're getting themselves into and the benefits and whatever the benefits are. And speaking of benefits, my last question was, after you do all that, after you've been doing this with us for a year, however long this all lasts, I would like to see some rough calculation as to the emission reduction benefits that this succeeded in gaining. Again, you can't get an exact number because it's people's households and stuff, but you could get some estimate, comparative, versus if you didn't do this, and how add all these houses up together, and hey, we just reduced this many emissions if we didn't do this, but compared to what we would have done not done. So I think we'd like to see that helps us decide whether we want to grow this beyond the pilot program or what have you. So that would be I think a presumptive thing that we would insist upon at some point down the road.
It would serve our interests very much to make sure that the value we deliver is counted. So yes.
Okay, and then I do recall some vague reference when Mike, Councilmember Hannan asked for that additional 250 after we had this ongoing discussion about more for local development. And I seem to recall there was some discussion about electrification programs that we were looking to expand. And I just don't remember all the details, but I'm assuming that staff is falling within the parameters we identified. So
yeah, you know what, Dan, that's helpful. We actually just watched the video, and it was a community innovation grant, but the sort of the nuance that I think is important to note is these were community innovation grants for low and moderate income customers, not community-based organizations. And so what we're doing here is we're actually providing grants directly to low and moderate income customers. So, I think that might be sort of, and because in the budget, we didn't have a specific program focused on community innovation grants per se, there was not, I think, we didn't take it as, we have a program in this budget that we're sort of going to be enhancing funds to. We are going to provide grants to low and moderate income customers to support low electrification. So that is what we are sort of pursuing here. This is beyond that, frankly. We are also allocating other funds from this fiscal year in our building electrification program, and also earmarking funds for next year as well.
Okay, I don't think I have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kalb. Next up is Vice Chair Lopez.
Thank you very much. A quick question on this. On the 70 households, how will that be equitably geographically distributed amongst the service area?
We hadn't contemplated setting targets on a region by region basis. I think given the niche that we're trying to serve here with customers, it's going to be more based on who raises their hand and is interested in opting in for participation. We are certainly happy to prepare a report out at the end of this year showing how that geographic distribution happened. And if at that time, we scale up the program and there's interest in moving further and we're finding it's not landing equitably, then I think that could be a really good thing for us to explore.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm concerned about any concept of sort of who gets there first gets it. Because I think that what we want is sort of a collaborative effort here amongst all the jurisdictions in the service area. And so I think that there should be some sort of goal to, let's say you get, let's just be ambitious. Let's say it's oversubscribed by twofold. So we're at 140 households. Then perhaps, doing it by geographic reach, and diversifying the geographic reach or by lottery or something like that. So it's balanced and fair. And then we have another look at continuing to meet any demand if it is in fact oversubscribed in within the next, year or so. I feel like if the demand is there, then we should find a path forward. Because if people are looking at this and as has been mentioned before, if they have their eyes wide open and know the terms of like the interest rate and so forth and so on, and they still want to do this, then we should find a path forward for it. I know that the pilot was in a particular area and I appreciate that, but I do feel like, I'd like for everybody to have a fair chance at this. Additionally, I'm wondering whether there might be an ability to do any kind of public partnerships with cities here. And this question is more for Nick, and whether we might be able to think in the future if, cities also add some money to the table, if there could be a prescribed or an allocation or pre-prescribed amount of households per jurisdiction.
I think that that's certainly something that we can explore. I think what's going to be important here as a first step is to sort of launch this program and start acquiring customers. So customer acquisition is a really big part of this, and frankly, it's a big cost. And I think as we acquire customers and we have a sense of where those customers are, and we potentially even have a backlog to the degree that there are 25 homes in San Leandro that have expressed interest in the program, but the funding has been used, then I certainly think that would be a great sort of priority for us to sort of consider, is to go to the city and say, if for this amount of incremental funding, we could provide these benefits to these 25 homes in San Leandro or Fremont or Dublin or wherever.
I think so. I think that, because many of us have recently passed our climate or updated our climate action plans. And so really motivated to see all people of all economic levels be able to take part in our aspirational goals, so that we in fact operationalize them and we are able to attain those goals. And I think that this is a good way to get there if we think that there is the demand after these 70 households of maybe doing something more formalized specifically with cities to help us all get there. I think that would be a good win-win. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Member Hannon.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of concerns regarding this project. My first question, we identified 9.8% of our communities are disadvantaged. And I thought I heard you indicate that that was based on zip codes or census tracts. Do you actually have a map of the Alameda County showing the 9.8% of those displaced communities so we can kind of visualize where they're located?
I don't have something like that on hand. I can do some Slack work and see if I can come up with something while we're discussing.
Great. Might have been something you might want to have included with your presentation or with your staff report. The company that's going to be providing this service, Block Power, you mentioned in your staff report that they've completed projects in nearly 1,000 buildings, saving customers 20 to 40% on their energy bills. It really would have been helpful if you'd given us more tangible information around that information. I don't know anything about Block Power. I don't know what their business model looks like. I'm concerned about, not dissimilar to what we saw with the 2008 housing crisis, that people are going to be brought in with an understanding that we're going to improve your energy efficiency. It's going to cost you less. And at the end of the day, they're going to find out that it may actually cost them more. And again, we're dealing with the most vulnerable in our community, the ones that can least afford higher energy costs. It would have been helpful if Block Power or the staff report had given us a lot more information regarding the types of buildings that they had previously worked on, the actual dollar savings to the customers that they were working with. That would have been helpful. I didn't see that in the report. I know that Dan mentioned, coming back and talking about the improvement to greenhouse gases. I want to hear from the customers in terms of their overall experience in terms of this process. I know it's a small number of clients that will be working with 70, but I want to hear from the clients. What did we fulfill what we indicated we would fulfill at the beginning of this process? Did you find that the experience was helpful? Did you find that you had savings at the end of the day? When I hear Block Power talk about, we may have to deal with other remediation in terms of mold and things of that nature. I mean, you're talking in those cases, possibly thousands of dollars to which some homeowners may not be equipped to address or may be equipped to repay. I'm really concerned about the financials as it may impact our low income residents. I want to commend the Community Advisory Committee member Ann on her comments. I thought they were right on. As we look to improve our energy efficiency around electricity versus natural gas, I need to understand at the end of the day, what is it going to cost my typical resident in terms of the savings that they can see month in and month out as we transition to electricity from natural gas? Or am I going to be seeing a situation where they're actually going to be paying more at the end of the day, but we're living in a cleaner, greener environment? I mean, at the end of the day, when you talk to most folks, those are their concerns as we're dealing with, certainly higher inflation at this point. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not certain if I have enough information today to support this moving forward. So I do want to let you know that I may be a no vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just point of order, we are still on clarifying questions at this state. Member Hand.
I apologize.
How dare you? Robust discussion, however, and I respect that. I would, before we go back to folks who've already had an opportunity to ask their questions, I would like to open it up for public comment. So I will check with our acting clerk, Megan, to see if anyone has submitted a speaker card on this item.
Hi, Madam Chairman. It looks like this is still on item 11. We have Jada who submitted a card and also has raised their hand. So that's who I see right now.
Then let's go ahead and give Jada 2 minutes to speak on this item, please.
Okay, great. Okay, Jada, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Megan. Hi again, Jada with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. Thanks to the LDBP staff for this program, and we have been advocating for solutions similar to this for years, and we support this proposal in general. However, we have the same concerns that Olivia specifically raised and some other board members raised. Also, thanks to Council Member Harrison for her comments about the community innovation grants. because we are concerned that EBC is using this $250,000 earmarked for the community innovation grants at the June board meeting as investment money for this program. And like we think EBC should use that money for the community innovation grants and should get another $250,000 from another line item to invest in this program. Nick said that EBC is providing grants to low-income customers with this program, but my understanding is that this is not a grant. This is an investment with a 5.5% interest rate. So, and I have never heard from EBC that there's a community innovation grant for community. It's usually, I mean, it used to be at least for the community-based organizations. So I think there needs to be more clarification about that. Thank you.
All right, and seeing no other hands raised, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring this back to the board for deliberation. First up, we've got CAC Chair Anna Olivia Eldred.
Thank you. Just as a clarifying question, these are leases on appliances. So they're paying it back, but they don't own it. Is that correct?
They are paying a lease. There are options to buy or renew at the end of the term, much like solar.
That was a really helpful comment, Jada.
While we haven't discussed this specifically, we did have discussion around the community innovation grants. It does not seem an appropriate application of that particular fund, especially since our customers are paying it back and then still don't own it. $250,000 in context of our budget is not actually that much money, but in context of our community organizations who are out doing this intense work and have real relationships with our neighbors, it is a lot of money for them. So it seems like, again, general support from the CAC on this measure, and absolute applause to both Block Power and EBCE staff who brought this to us, because again, it is a good program. It does seem like the fund should come from a different place. And then the last clarifying question there, if say it is more expensive, or somebody doesn't like it, or it turns out that it's not actually a net climate benefit and they want to break their lease, do they get their appliances back?
So I can address that briefly. I think you're talking about the program in the context of renter populations, and as, okay, no, so not, forgive me for misunderstanding. I think I will defer that to Grace. One thing I do want to also clarify is that a part of this overall proposal is $400,000 in incentives to customers. So those are funds that will not be seeking repayment on.
So I think that's the important clarification, Becky, is that the $250,000 that was earmarked towards low and moderate income electrification grants is manifest here as part of the $400,000 of incentives that are being provided to customers. There is, in addition to that, there's $1 million from our loan. That is not part of sort of the grant mandate that was given to us in June. So what we're doing is we're taking the $250,000 that was in the grant mandate, we're supplementing that with an additional $150,000 from the approved local development budget. And then on top of that, we're taking an additional, I believe it is $250,000 from the local development budget for this fiscal year and contributing that to the loan. And then another $750,000 from next year that we're earmarking from next year's budget for this loan. And the draw on the loan, because these projects are not going to all be deployed this year, there's going to be a sort of draw over time. So that is sort of why we're sort of treating it as a 2-year program.
But our customers will still be paying interest on on-bill payment. So again, on-bill payment, fantastic, wonderful thing, no upfront costs. It's a really great model. Very excited about who you're partnering with support. But with that, our customers will still be paying this back. at least some of this will be paid.
Correct.
back.
So the incentives are going to reduce the cost of the measure, and then that's not paying for the full cost of the measure. So if we were to simply, let's use the 70 homes as an example. If we were to just use the incentives of 400,000, we would be reaching 25 homes, more or less, right? So what this is able to do is we're reaching 2x the homes. We're reaching 70, 75 homes instead of 25 homes by being able to provide apply leverage to the program.
So,
That answered your question. Thank you.
thank you. Councilmember Harrison, I will get to you in just a moment. I just wanted to clarify with Anna Olivia. At the CAC, as we don't have a written report because we're missing our clerk, and so all of our normal processes are not here today. Did the CAC take an action on this item to support or not support?
We did submit an annotated copy of the agenda this morning, and that was the first comment I made. It wasn't questions, that was the CAC comment. Was we have general support for this item and applaud Block Power and that stuff, and we'd like to see these concerns addressed. So specific, that was what that was.
Thank you. I'm on the agenda. I do not have a link to the CAC annotated agenda. As I said, we're operating patched together today. So appreciate you just confirming that there were some concerns, but there is support. Okay, appreciate that. Director Harrison.
Yeah, Nick, I had a question about the difference between the incentive money and the other money. When you say incentive money, what does that mean? It's distinct from the $1 million. What's the difference in how they're going to be used?
So the incentives are money that's going out the door to directly reduce the cost of the measure. So let's say in each of these homes, let's take a heat pump hot water heater. Let's just say each one of these homes is getting a heat pump hot water heater. The 400,000 is going to reduce the upfront cost of the heat pump hot water heater. And jump in, Becky or Grace, if I'm misstating something here. But we're reducing the upfront cost. So it is a grant. It is a cash reduction. It is our funds that are going to directly reduce the cost of the measure. So if it would have cost $1,000, let's just say we're contributing $200 per project. Now that measure costs $800, and then the loan is going to, cover the residual $800 in capital costs that we have to pay for the measure, we have to buy it, and then that $800 is being repaid by the consumer over time.
Okay, so the first portion of it is an out and out reduction of the cost of the heat pump, to use a facile example. And then the rest is a loan for the balance of that work, plus whatever else you have to do on energy efficiency and getting rid of mold and all of that. Okay, that makes sense. I do have a question. Are you going to be addressing Nick before we vote on this? Because we're not voting today, are we?
We have a resolution before us tonight, Kate.
Okay. So before I vote, my question is, what is the overhead for Block Power in this contract? How much is that?
There's not I think there's not a specific overhead in the contract. So Block Power has a service agreement, and so we're not privy to the specific sort of returns that Block Power achieves on its projects. But Grace, please speak to that. That is not my question to answer.
Okay, so what you're saying is that their earnings are on the $1 million in loans. That's essentially how Block Power gets paid back. Okay, that's helpful. I also want to just share the concern about the costs that might be laid at people's feet. If I take, and I don't think this is in your intention, but if I take, you said there's $1 million here plus matching, we're going to have $4 million, right? Isn't that in the report? I think it said that we would leverage about 4 million. And if we do 70 homes, that's $57,000 a home. That's a lot of work, and it may be needed, but it's also a lot of potential debt. So I'm just a little worried about this number. I think it seems like a lot of debt to incur. And I want to just be very careful with that. Because again, although when they sell, they don't have that debt anymore, they do have to explain to buyers that they will have that debt. And, you know, it leads to a kind of increase in indebtedness. So I'm just a little bit, I'm stuck on the numbers, and I think I need to understand more. I don't think I can vote tonight. Yes, I need more information. This is a very hefty thing we're doing, and I would hope we could delay this until we could understand the fiscal position a little bit better. Thank you.
When you say the fiscal position, is it the consumer fiscal position?
Yeah, how much are we gonna spend? What's the average we're gonna spend per house? What's it gonna get people? How much will be an out and out grant? How much will be indebtedness for the average person? How is that indebtedness paid back over what period? You know, I just need to see that as Councilmember Hamlin said, I need, or Director Hamlin, I need like the average person point of view. Somebody who makes 100% of AMI, who falls into your category, if they make $100,000 a year, what's this going to mean to them for a family of four? If I don't have that, I have a hard time conceptualizing what it really means on the ground, even though I really like the outlines of it. I'm just not able to understand it well enough.
Colleagues, are there any other questions or comments? I guess I will take my turn at this point. A lot of issues have been raised tonight, but I do want to say, as Anna Olivia has indicated, that the CAC was largely in favor of moving forward with this, if I understand your comments correctly. I do think staff has done a great deal of diligence on this matter. I think they've brought in a really good partner with Block Power. I do want to give Grace the opportunity to talk about the deep impact and investments that they've had in communities doing similar work, and what impacts those have had. You know, folks want to know what the end result is, and you know, what are the human impacts for the work that Block Power does.
Thank you for the opportunity. Donnell Baird, our co-founder and CEO, and Keith Kinch have both been working in the New York area for the last over a decade, building relationships in the community to deliver these benefits to the communities that they grew up in and support. We are working to replicate that model, especially here in California, where the thought leadership is so strong. And I think the gap between where folks want to be and the reality of electrification projects in the ground in LMI communities is pretty large. We have some experience with our pilot projects, the 10 that we've initiated here in Oakland. And I can provide quotes from each one of them, attesting to the value that we are delivering to their grandchildren and tenants and their own families that are breathing cleaner air, and their homes that were worked on by their neighbors. And I know Mark, apparently, thank you, is listening here on from Revalue as well, but we are very much working with local community partners, because that first and foremost is a bedrock for how Block Power goes to market. And so where we do not have the deep networks, we build them, starting with community advisory boards, which we initiated here a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, before the pandemic, and through which we met Mark, and through Mark, who we've met, you know, Dahlia from Eco Options, and Eric Shanks from Cypress Mandela, and Ms. Margaret Gordon from the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project. We've invested 2 years in developing these relationships here. So I think it's really important for us to cede that authority and to rely on those networks of trust for those communities through whom this is the path to access them. They are hard to reach for mainstream organizations, but they are not hard to reach. They're just not addressed in the way that they can trust. And I wouldn't say that I'm doing anything here. I'm very much relying on the Block Power model of building these community networks. And one of the biggest things that we do is we deliver projects, we complete projects, we figure out hell or high water how to finish projects, because that is one of the biggest proof points that we can deliver to community, that we're not coming with marketing or platitudes. We are coming with, with completed projects. We're asking you to help us expand that effort here to deliver more completed projects. The 400,000 is going to help lower the project cost for those projects that have just that gap. But we're not asking for money just from you. We're collecting from everyone and everywhere we can get this, because that's what it takes, this nested incentive picture. Folks from hospital organizations who are avoiding one asthma attack at a time, from folks who are living surrounded by 4 highways or next to refineries whose outside air is poisonous year round, wildfires notwithstanding. We think that the clean energy transition is happening, and we know that it's going to leave the people who can least afford it behind. So there are some things we will do to reassure folks. We will put some more language in things. We will deliver the proof points that you need to see, but we are working with the stewards of the communities that have promised to deliver this for their friends and neighbors. And so that is who we will answer to. And we're looking for your support in delivering these complete projects in these neighborhoods.
Thank you, Grace. Colleagues, I recently had the opportunity to write a byline for East Bay Express, and I just wanted to remind the community that one of our missions as East Bay Community Energy is to level the playing field and bring along those most vulnerable communities on the clean power revolution. The folks in Alameda County and in Tracy who have solar are people who have had access to finances, people who have traditionally been able to be on the bleeding edge of this type of technology for heat pumps and other electrification improvements, have had to meet those bottom line things that are necessary to make those changes. And the sub panels were a really good point that Anna Olivia brought up, for instance, just bringing up, the base level of someone's home so that they could take advantage of these new technologies. So I am going to vote in favor of passing this resolution because I think staff has heard our concerns tonight. I think Block Power has heard our concerns. And what we've got on the table is a resolution authorizing the CEO to negotiate and execute an agreement and a promissory note so that we can move forward with this work. But by no means is the feedback loop closed. So I'm confident that even if we move forward tonight, that we will still reach a place that'll be satisfactory to everyone who wants to see that reporting, including what Grace has offered regarding the 10 families whose homes have already been invested in West Oakland, if we need that data sooner than later. So with that, I do want to recognize Director Monroe, who just raised their hand.
Yeah, and sort of picking up after what you said, I wanted to make the motion to approve this. Is this an appropriate time?
This is, yes.
Okay, well, I so move with the idea that I've really appreciated what my colleagues have said tonight, but I'm of the, to coin a phrase, I'd like to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And so I'm ready to vote for this and to vote in favor of it. I think this is a really good example of it's expensive to be poor, and I appreciate that this is something that is taking us forward to alleviate that.
Thank you. Director Hannan.
Yes, Madam Chair, I agree with everything you just said. I truly do want to support the motion, but I would ask maybe that we give this organization time to come back and maybe report to us on their experiences with those 10 homes and articulate how the financing and the repayment plan worked for these customers so that we have a better idea moving forward how we can anticipate the other customers' experience will most likely be. So I would ask if I may put forward a friendly amendment or suggestion that we defer this item for 30 days to give Block Power the opportunity to come back with a little bit more information about their experiences with these 10 homeowners in the hopes that certainly I can then support this motion. That would be my request.
Okay,
Is that a substitute motion? I would second that if it is.
Was that a substitute motion? If it was an amendment, I'll need to check with the motion maker.
That would be fine with me.
I'm not I'm not a legalese, so I'm not sure if that's an amended or a substitute motion. I'll certainly defer to my colleagues' experiences in terms of what's the best way to characterize that.
I'm not the best parliamentarian, I think, but she accepts it as an amendment.
I'll make it a substitute motion because I'm asking that it basically be deferred for 30 days to give Block Power an opportunity to come back with a little bit more information relative to the 10 homeowners that they've had an opportunity to work with.
Okay, so there's
I would
Yeah.
second that. Director Hanlon, can I ask that we take a vote that says we're generally in favor of this idea, but we want to see that data
Yes.
first? I don't want to
Yes.
leave the impression that we're.
No, I'm in
generally
favor and I want to support this, but I just
Okay.
don't believe I have enough information to make that decision tonight.
Okay.
I
so
would
we have-
second that.
Can I jump in here as having
I'm
made the
sorry,
original
we're-
motion?
We're out of order. If folks need to speak, they can raise their hands and I'm going to recognize everyone in order. Member Hannon, please lower your hand. CEO Chassett.
Mike, before you finally, I just want to make sure that we're positioned to answer your question because I think I understand very specifically the request, but we do have 10 homes that have that are in the pipeline. And would you like to see a, if for lack of a better word, basically a customer pro forma for those 10 homes that sort of indicates ROI, kind of capital requirement for the project and return on investment, consumer return on investment. I think it might be challenging for Block Power to sort of open all of their sort of internal financing and return thresholds. But really what I think I'm hearing is, and it makes a tremendous amount of sense sort of as a potential next step to give some more indicative sense, unlike solar, where solar is often very much sold on the sort of the proposition of saving customers money. And so what we're asking for here is a indicative customer pro forma for these 10 projects. Because if that's what it is, then I think I feel very confident I know what I'm asking Block Power to do. But if it's something that's more broad, I just don't want to bring the wrong thing back in a month.
Right, I would like Block Power to come forward with kind of a summary of the 10 properties that they're dealing with, or a summation of the 10 properties that they're dealing with in terms of the amount of the work that they did on each property, what the cost to the customer was at the end of the day, whether or not it was a situation that was certainly saving them money, that would certainly be of benefit. Just kind of an overall summary as to the experiences of these 10 or representative of these 10 customers moving forward.
We're happy to provide this. I can tell you right now that our average project cost is $25,000. I can tell you that the Bay Rent incentives to date average $4,500. I can tell you to date that we're making 1% to 2% returns overall and not the 5.5 we'd like to hit, because we have about a $6,000 to $8,000 shortfall per project. We believe that in order to secure the support of various stakeholders throughout the Bay, it was important for us to complete the projects. And so all of those customers are happy because we've given them a spanking deal to be able to close these projects. We didn't do this because we forever see us losing money on this. We did this because we know in order to build trust, you have to complete projects. So that's what we've done.
It sounds great.
Okay. Nick, your hand is still raised. Did you complete your comments?
Yeah, so I think what I just want to again clarify, because I want to be very clear. I don't want to come back with something that you're like, well, Mike, I don't, this isn't what I was looking for. So what we're going to come back with is we're going to come back with a high level assessment of these are the kinds of measures that were deployed across these 10 homes. This is the total the average and total customer cost for the homes. I'm not going to, and we can sort of parse through whether that's net or not of various incentives, obviously not EBC incentives, and then what the expected consumer ROI is. So
Yes.
basically, what are consumers expecting to save? To the degree that you can share that. I mean, I know that there are.
I can screen share our exact pipeline and show you all of that right now and answer this question. I'd love to close this out and I'd love to give you guys this assurance, and I can show you that data right now.
I'm actually looking at the data right now, Mike. So if you're so inclined, they actually have a description of, and my apologies for not including this in the issue. So happy to sort of revisit this in 30 days as well. But I think we could actually throw up the 10 projects, what the ROIs are and what the measures are if that is the sort of want of the body.
I would leave my substitute motion the same, leave it as a 30-day, come back, give me an opportunity to review it, digest it, and then come back with any questions that I might have at that point.
I think that's the motion then. That's great. We won't go through the item then now, and we will just submit that. We'll bring it back in 30 days.
Assuming that it passes.
All right. I think folks have faith in you, Member Hannon. We'll bring it to Vice Chair Lopez.
Thank you. I'm a little bit confused on the motion. I'm trying to, because I heard somebody else spoke and then Dr. Hannon said yes, and then now it's something else. So I think there was a desire to have some sort of agreement and principle that the goal, the aspirational goal, is something that we can support, but that there are still details that are needed for a fully informed vote. So what I'm thinking here is the vote is basically, looks like we're going to table the item to a date certain. Basically, is that what I'm hearing as your motion, Mike?
Right. My motion is, I really do want to support this motion this idea moving forward. I just need a little bit more information regarding the experience of the 10 homeowners to which they've worked with in the city of Oakland to see whether or not, as Nick mentioned, customers are anticipating or receiving the savings that they thought they would receive. It's not putting them in a financial hardship situation where they may not be able to repay that debt. I just need a little bit more of a sampling as to the customers that we are currently working with, knowing that as we move forward with the other 60 or 70, that it's going to be a similar experience.
Right. So we would hear regarding those 10, deliberate on those 10 before we vote on the other, on the 70, on the item 12 tonight, correct?
Right. That would be my request.
Okay, I understand your motion. Thank you.
All right, Member Cal.
I just wanted to clarify, I believe what the intent is that we're continuing this item to our next board meeting, which would be the appropriate motion, not 30 days, which is actually not accurate.
I'm sorry, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Member Cox.
Yes, I was trying to figure out why 30 days as opposed to 60 days, just to make sure we got all the information, because I think that's maybe cutting it short. We got the holidays and time off that those that may be planning over the next 30 days. Additionally, I would be interested in hearing about the structure, the age of the structure of the homes that you are applying the electrification to, and also if they're 1-story, 2-story, or 3-story type homes, just to kind of understand that.
Thank you. I think, Member Cox, I think the 30 days is because the information is available, but it's just going to be put into a form where we can actually digest it as a board. That what Grace was saying and Nick was saying is they've got some of the numbers before them that would answer some of the questions, the very good questions that have been brought up tonight. But if they're put into the context of a staff report and available for the public as well to vet, I think that would be preferable by the motion maker and the seconder. So this, do you have any additional comments? Teresa?
Oh, no, that was my comments.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we had enough time. That's all.
Yeah, I think what we're contemplating is data that's already available from Block Power. So next up, let's have Member Harrison.
But I didn't get the clarification, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, on if they were able to add the age of the homes that they are adding on the information, if that's possible, and if there were the 1, 2, or 3-story homes, just so we kind of understand that if there's like a square footage size that they probably already have with the electrification that has to be calculated, but just making sure we have those other additional 3 points, if that would be helpful, if that's doable from Block Power.
I'm seeing a nodding head from Block
Okay,
Power.
thank you.
Very good. Okay, Director Harrison.
Ms. Bradbury, I just wanted to ask you, is it easier for you or better for you to use other examples than Oakland, because that's a fairly new project? What I'm saying is I want to offer the opportunity to give us examples that are exemplary of a program that's been in existence for a while, and whatever works for you. I don't know that it has to be Oakland is all I'm saying. So, because you had mentioned this as a beginning and they've gotten a great deal, and it may not be your typical pro forma. So whatever works for you is fine, is all I'm trying to relay here.
No, I think Oakland is the most apt. It's right, obviously within our service territory, and we expect the labor and the material rates to be consistent, most consistent here. In New York, we are also dealing with slightly different technology given cold climate.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Member Cal, your hand was still up. You just lowered it. And Member Cox, I believe we addressed your questions. So colleagues, we have we had a motion, but then we have a substitute motion preferred by Member Hannan and seconded by Member Harrison. So that is what is on the table. And if there are no further comments or discussion, I will ask our acting clerk. Oh, Member Hannan, did you want to say something?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Yes, when they come back, because one of the big issues is the additional remediation, Grace. Could you maybe describe that in your presentation or in the staff report in terms of other remediation that was necessary over and above the electrification issue, so we have a full understanding as to what customers are likely to have to deal with? That would be helpful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. Okay, so that is encapsulated in the very lengthy motion that if staff has any questions about it, they're going to go back to Member Hannan for clarification. But we have that motion on the table by Member Hannan, second by Member Harrison. And so Madam Acting Clerk, please call the roll. And you're on mute, Megan.
Okay, sorry, there it goes. City of Albany.
Yes.
Okay, City of Livermore.
Yes.
City of Piedmont.
Yes.
City of San Leandro.
Aye.
City of Tracy.
Yes.
City of Oakland.
Aye.
City of Emeryville.
Aye.
City of Hayward.
Aye.
City of Union City.
Aye.
City of Berkeley.
Yes.
City of Pleasanton.
Yes.
City of Fremont.
Yes.
And Director Hernandez let me know that she actually left the meeting. So I guess that's just counted as not voting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to make note of that. And then City of Newark.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you, Megan, and thank you, colleagues. Robust discussion appreciated as always with many good points. Look forward to seeing this item again next time. And I do want to thank staff and thank Block Power. Don't be scared off by our very invested board. We all really want the best for our community. And I look forward to seeing this come back next month with details that show proof of concept that this type of work is meaningful to our community and benefits those specific homeowners that we're targeting. So that will bring us to item 11. This is, item 12, our PG&E carbon-free allocation, which is never controversial. I don't think it will be this year. I think the staff has a very good recommendation for us. So I will turn it over to staff for our presentation.
Jim, are you here to cover this?
Yeah, I can speak to this. I was waiting for the introduction, but I'm good to kick it off. Good evening, everybody, members of the board, Madam Chair. This hopefully will be a less robust conversation than the last item. So what you have in front of you is the staff memo. And so what we're asking is we'd like the board to approve accepting the large hydroelectric generation for purchase at $0 and not to accept the nuclear generation. And this will be for delivery in 2022 as part of the PG&E carbon-free energy allocation. And so what is this? So as part of the power charge and difference adjustment proceedings, EBCE customers are entitled to a load proportional share of generation from the PG&E's contracted carbon-free resources. That's my cat. She likes to come over exactly when I start talking. So this comes from two different resources pools, and you have the optionality to select one or the other or both. And again, we've talked about this before, so apologize if I'm rushing through it. They come from two different pools. One is the large hydroelectric generation resources, and the other are those from the nuclear resources that are contracted from PG&E, and that's basically Diablo. Sorry.
Jim, we're gonna have to see the cat. So if you hear a cat on Zoom, you have to see it. That's one of my rules.
Timid. I think she is showing her disdain for the lack of attention I'm giving her, and that's okay. So basically, I explained kind of what we're asking the board and what this product is. And now I'm going to speak to what happened in 2021. And so based on staff's recommendation, the board accepted both the generation from the large hydro and from the nuclear. And this was under the condition that EBCE would resale the full amount of the nuclear generation with the intent to have that party then resell that generation, and EBCE would receive 50% of those net profits. And this was accomplished. And so in 2021, we accepted both the nuclear and the large hydro. We contracted to have the full amount of the nuclear resold, so off of our books and onto the third party. And then during the calendar year, and actually still ongoing during this year of 2021, that party has continued to make attempts to sell this nuclear generation, but have not had success. And they've done outreach in California, in the WEC, and even out into the Northeast as well as an attribute deal. They just haven't been able to move any of these volumes, sadly to say. And that's the reality of it. And so based on that, EBC recommends that the board accept only the large hydro and then not take the nuclear for delivery during 2022. And I'll pause here and let me know if anyone has questions.
Great, colleagues. Are there any questions on this report? Director Kalb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to, I know a lot of people who are on the board now were not on the board when we made some of these decisions. So just to re-clarify, the first decision we made was on a 10-5 vote to reject the nuclear portion of this that would have become part of our portfolio. And there was a lengthy discussions prior to that board meeting, and then a discussion and public comment at the board meeting. And again, 10-5 vote to reject and to ensure that there was no nuclear power as part of our portfolio. And then later on, the thought was, well, maybe we could make some money off of this and add that money to our local development programs. And so on a 12-2 vote, the board decided to, to make the attempt to bring in the nuclear, but not have it be part of EBCE's portfolio and still have our hands off. And it would not increase the generation of nuclear power anywhere, just kind of a pass through, and bring in $1 million or so for EBCE's local development. And that was the thing we were trying to do. That apparently, according to staff, that has not succeeded. And so it seems like the logical next step is what the staff is recommending. Let's just not bother with the nuclear, keep our hands completely, and just stick with the large hydro. And so I'm happy to make the motion based on staff recommendation.
Thank you, Director Kalb. Director Lopez.
Thank you very much. Well, I wasn't here for that particular vote, but I did hear about it. I caused some waves. And the pun is intended because I'm really uncomfortable with, I think that hydroelectric generation is very problematic. There are pipelines that are being built or threatened to be built throughout the US that would severely impact local communities. I feel like it's dirty for me. It's just not something that I can be part of. I don't want my city to be part of. The damage to habitat from hydroelectric generation is substantial. Damming waterways is very impactful in a negative way. throughout this country. And I cannot be part of this. So I'm going to be voting no tonight on that. Just, I can't see myself, being part of the facade of saying that, we want to promote clean energy, and then yet we destroy habitat in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Tiedemann.
Yeah, I have some comments that I'll say for after we take public comment, but I just wanted to ask, as one of the members who was not here for this initial vote, and maybe Board Member Kalb can help me here, what the discussion was and what the stated reasons for not accepting the nuclear portion of this. And I think I can probably guess some of them, but I want to be sure.
Do you want to take a stab at that, Director Kalb?
Sure. I think the reasons were along the same lines that people are critical of nuclear power more broadly. And one of the reasons I recall was we were created to be a kind of a clean energy authority, publicly run clean energy authority, and that a lot of people felt, and I agree, that nuclear power, while virtually no greenhouse gas emissions, still is not what I would consider, many people would consider, a clean form of energy generation, given all the risks and waste disposal challenges when it comes to nuclear power, nuclear wastes. So that was the rationale for a lot of people. I can't speak for all the people who voted, all the 10 people who voted to say no at the time, because 10 different people, but there was a lot of discussion, a lot of public concern, and there was some concern that if we took it, it would show up on our power content label in a big way, and that would create a lot of negative reaction among a lot of residents in our service territory. So there was 2/3 of the vote of the board at the time decided to not take it. On the hydro part, again, this is all hydroelectric power that already is being generated. No new dams, no increase in the size of dams. This power already exists. Whether the only question is, do we take it, or does PG&E keep it and sell it somewhere or use it somewhere else? So I'm comfortable keeping the nuclear. I'm comfortable keeping the large hydro, but not the nuclear. So that's why I'm supporting staff recommendation.
More clarifying questions. Next up, Anna Olivia Eldred.
I had the very dynamic opportunity to be chair of the advisory committee during the nuclear debate, and I have extensive records as well as write-ups, summaries of those comments that I can make available to whomever. There was also liability concerns and a variety of risk issues that were brought up with it. So,
thank you for offering that. Director Harrison.
I wasn't on the board either at that time, but I followed it very closely, and I was disappointed that we accept the nuclear attributes. And I didn't think they would sell. Many other locales had decided not to accept them, such as San Francisco. So I'm very pleased now that we're not going to be doing that. I do share the concern about large hydro, but I have to agree with Director Kalb that this isn't creating new hydro. And we're not going to be taking out Hetch Hetchy anytime soon or getting rid of the dams we have. So I think given that, I have to support the idea that we would take these attributes. But I do have one question for Mr. Chassett, and that is, what does it do to our power content label when we have hydro in the mix? Does it make us look less green vis-a-vis PG&E? Because that's something I hear from a lot of my constituents, that you're not as green because you're taking these other things. Is that accurate?
I mean, large hydro has not the large hydro component. I mean, PG&E has large hydro, and when we do not take the allocation of large hydro from PG&E, PG&E retains it and actually makes PG&E look more green.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's just the other concern I have. So we're not disadvantaging ourselves vis-a-vis PG&E by taking it in terms of the public impression of how green we are, or the
Correct.
reality
Yep.
of how green we are. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you
both,
very much.
Both. Yep.
Okay, Director Lopez.
Yeah, I just want to, just my own personal opinion, and I mean no disrespect, but I don't think this is green. Hydroelectric power is green, and I also think that just because a dam is built, then it makes it okay. a lot of folks, and especially indigenous folks, that have been disproportionately impacted by the damming of waterways would argue that those waterways should be restored. And what will happen is that there will be negative environmental impacts on endangered species, and wildlife corridors will be brought back from the brink by taking down dams. And so I just want to make sure that then at least I'm able to share my narrative of this and that it's on the record, that I respectfully disagree with some of my colleagues here with how the assessment that it's okay because it's already been done. It's not okay, and it can be undone. Thank you.
All right, so our colleagues, if there are no more clarifying questions, I want to check with our acting clerk to see if there are any public comments, specifically any speaker cards submitted for this item, and then we can recognize folks with their hands raised for 2 minutes.
Yes, Madam Chair. There is Jada and Alita from earlier, though I'm not sure Alita is still on the line. Oh, and I see Jessica Tovar just raised her hand also. So unless I'm mistaken, if Alita is on the line, could you raise your hand? If not, we can start with Jada, who submitted the speaker card.
And Megan, also, if you don't mind promoting the number ending with 8899, that's actually Director Cox. She had to switch off of her computer and onto her phone. So in case she'd like to speak, I want to make sure that she's in the room with us.
So I can't promote her to panelist. I did give her talking permitted, so she can unmute herself.
Very good.
I did do that.
Okay, so Member Cox, the way you would do that on a phone is *6 if you wish to speak when we come back to deliberation. So just go ahead and jump in, but at this time we will focus on public comment. So take those in order, please, Megan.
Okay, give me just one moment. Okay, Jada, you are unmuted.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, Jada Durmaz-Dogan with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. We're glad that EBC staff is proposing to reject PG&E's nuclear allocation this time. That has been our position since the nuclear allocation item was brought to the agenda for the first time. And in fact, back in December 2020 at the EBC board meeting, I mentioned that the Pioneer Community Energy staff reported to their board in August 2020 that the staff was not able to sell their nuclear allocation, and they reported that there is extremely limited interest for nuclear allocation. So I guess their staff was right, and EBC is coming to the same conclusion after more than a year. I know that EBC didn't pay for it, but I'm curious about how much staff time EBC spent dealing with the nuclear allocation. Thank you.
You want us to answer that question, or?
Let's hear all of public comment first.
Okay, Jessica, you're now unmuted.
Hi, thank you very much, Jessica Tovar, East Bay Clean Power Alliance. First, I want to thank Corina Lopez for her words. Speaking to hydro, when we imagined a local clean energy agency such as East Bay Community Energy, the vision was certainly renewable energy such as solar, battery storage, and wind energy in our community. So just to reiterate that. And then second of all, I mean, there was a lot more details to this offer from PG&E of nuclear energy that we did not agree with. One of the things was that this was excess nuclear. PG&E had a heavy amount of nuclear that they wanted to get rid of. And I very deeply felt like it was a great strategy for them to just offer it to community choice programs in order to dirty our mixes. and really seeing that they were tainting the reputation of their competition. And so that was one of the arguments that I wanted to uplift. And just next time, we should really just leave the bad stuff to the bad guys who created the problem in the first place. I think we can do a whole lot better moving forward. Other folks have spoke to the other issues, controversial issues about nuclear energy. And in general, the state of California is moving away from nuclear for a lot of reasons. The crack in San Onofre, and the threat that we have with Diablo Canyon. So I'm very much looking forward to the end of that energy in the state of California. That's my time. Thank you very much. Clean power to the people.
Great, thank you, Speaker. And seeing no further hands raised, we'll bring it back to the board. Has anyone not had a chance to speak? Director Tiedemann?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple comments on this. I think I'm in the minority here, but and that's fine. This is not a hill I need to die on or fight anyone on. But I think dismissing nuclear out of hand is a little short-sighted. I very serendipitously, I might not be talking as much about this as I would be, but very serendipitously today, wearing my other hat as a graduate student at UC Berkeley, I was in a talk by a professor at UC Berkeley who's also the former director of programs at ARPA-E, which is the federal level that investigates energy policy and advancements, as well as has a very impressive resume otherwise, who talked about what is the actual threat of nuclear energy and how it is honestly overblown. That there are real concerns to be had, but we talk about storage more than we need to, considering that we know how to store things, and no one is dying of nuclear waste storage, and it produces a lot less than we think, especially compared to actual pollution, which a lot of people are dying of. And the same goes for the generation of nuclear power in the events of disasters. Nuclear power plants are a lot safer than we think they are generally, and very few people overall. Yes, I'm paying my cat tax as well, Chair.
Thank you.
To lighten a very serious issue. Very few people died from nuclear power plant disasters, whereas people are dying every day from air pollution and climate change. And I think it's important to remember that EBC is really founded to avert the worst effects of climate change and make our energy profile cleaner. And nuclear energy might have to be a part of that, especially considering the really, quick timescale that the world is facing of if we don't deal with emissions, and also considering that we're doing a pretty good job, but it's really hard to get the entirety of our mix to be completely renewable. You need a power source that you can control pretty easily and turn on and off when you have peak times that are not during the daytime when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing. And that may have to be nuclear. And I think this problem is going to become a moot point, because as one of the commenters said, this power plant is shutting down the next 5 years, despite it having another 40 years of possible life because people don't want it. But this may be something that we have to consider going forward, especially if we talk about Gen 4 reactors, which are going to be, more and more possible in the next decade. So I really think it's something we shouldn't reject out of hand because these fears, or because a lot of people have a negative, knee-jerk reaction to the idea of nuclear, when it really might be necessary because it is a clean burning source of fuel that we can control, and that can help renewables scale up to the point where they can fulfill all of our needs. So I just wanted to get that out there because I think it's important that we talk about this, and I wasn't here for when this was talked about and voted on before my tenure. And I just had some information that I just learned today that I think is very material.
Thank you, Director Tiedemann, and thank you for paying your cat tax. Everyone else, if I hear a child or a pet in your home, I would like to see them. Next up is Director Patino.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, no, I just wanted to reiterate what I remember 3 years ago when I first started on this board. I remember that Director Kalb was chair, and we did discuss the allotment, and we decided not to take the nuclear, but to take the hydro. And that was Director Kalb gave us a very good synopsis of the thinking back then. So yeah, I concur with what he said, and I'd be okay with the recommendation.
Very good. Thank you, Director Patino. And if there are no other comments, go ahead, Director Hannon.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to commend Board Member Tiedemann. I agreed with everything he said. I was one of the 5 cities that voted to maintain the nuclear power back in that day. But I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think this motion is asking whether or not we want to keep our nuclear power component, because I think we as a board have already voted against that. Am I wrong in that assessment?
The recommendation is not to take.
Right, it's simply to take the hydro. Isn't that what my understanding is?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
There's no motion yet. So.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, I already made a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
My apologies. I missed that. Did anyone second? Is there a second on?
Second.
I'll second motion.
Oh, great. So that was many seconds. So we've got a motion from Director Kalb and a second from Kate. Did you do that?
Yes, thank you.
Second from Director Harrison. I just want to put in my 2 cents before we vote. I want to align myself with comments made by Director Lopez about the damage that large hydro can and has done to communities, to Native populations, to people who are still here living with the after effects of their land being taken and then being misused. However, I just want to clarify that in terms of accepting this large hydro allocation, our ratepayers have already paid for this electricity through the PCIA. So in a sense, the damage is done. We are not contributing to the creation of any new large hydro. We are simply taking the allocation and being able to use the renewable aspects of this electricity rather than just leaving it with PG&E. So it's a complex issue. I think we should absolutely hear what folks have to say about the damage that large hydro has done to communities. But in terms of taking this allocation, I'm in favor of the motion tonight. So with that, I will go ahead and allow our clerk to please call the roll.
City of Albany.
Abstain.
City of Livermore.
Yes.
City of Piedmont.
Yes.
City of San Leandro.
No.
City of Tracy.
Yes.
City of Oakland.
Aye.
City of Emeryville.
Yes.
City of Hayward.
Aye.
City of Union City.
Aye.
City of Berkeley.
Yes.
City of Pleasanton.
Yes.
City of Fremont.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then
Can you hear
again,
me?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
we heard you, Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Director Hernandez has left the meeting. And then lastly, City of Newark.
Yes.
Okay. That ends the voting on item 12.
Thank you, Megan. That will bring us to item 13. Are there any board member or staff announcements, including a request to place items on future agendas? Anna Olivia Eldred.
Thank you, Chair. So last month I made a very awkward middle of a meeting appearance asking you to fill out a survey. I am also finishing my master's degree at Vermont Law. This is a program that I started because of EVCE, and I am focusing on energy law and policy because of this group. So my thesis is to create a group of educational materials, a body of work specifically targeted to CCA board members and community advisory members to help folks get up on the different issues that we face every day, and to know what kinds of questions to ask about things as they come before us. I sent it back out to staff, but again, we've had a little complication with that this time, so I'll just ask them again to please send that out. It will be really helpful if you fill it out. It is going out to the other CCAs in the state of California. Staff is again encouraged to fill out that survey as well, so we can hear from them what they think we should know, which I think would be helpful. And thank you to the chair and the other person from this body that filled it out, but only 2 board members have filled out the survey. So please do fill this out. It is really helpful, and I'll be bringing some materials forward as they are approved through the sort of legal review body. And thank you.
Thank you. I will second that and encourage my colleagues to fill out this. It's a great survey, and just the questions of the survey show you the level of thinking that's put into the work that Anna Olivia is doing. I think we would all be well served to have new members get up to speed quickly and questions answered for folks who do the work that we do, because it is never boring, but there's a lot to get through, and I want to appreciate the chair of our CAC for bringing this forward. And I don't know if my answers were helpful, because I basically answered, I want all of this information, because there are options. There were weighted options. Would you rather hear more, understand more about the acronyms, or get more of this? And I just said everything.
That's helpful too. Everything will be short. Like there'll be a tiny thing so you can get a real quick briefer on it, and a bigger body so you can understand more if you want to, but you'll at least leave with an understanding of the topic. So fill out the stuff you think is important, please.
Yeah. So yeah, great. Thank you for that. If there are no more announcements, I think that we are on to our adjournment. Colleagues, there's a couple things that I do want to do right now as we adjourn. One is to, again, welcome Anna Olivia back as our CAC representative. She always brings a lot to the table. I also want to thank our staff for operating in absence of our very important clerk, Adrian Bankhead, and tell Megan she did a fantastic job tonight. And Howard and Nick, I know, were in supporting roles as well, with taking over all of those clerk duties, which our clerks are very much, when they're doing their jobs well, they are invisible. And so we tend not to notice and appreciate what happens behind the scenes. So I just want to appreciate the work that was done tonight. And we will all relay to Adrian when he gets back how much we missed him, and how much we appreciate him as well. And then lastly, colleagues, I'd like to adjourn this meeting in the memory of Supervisor Wilma Chan, who has a deep legacy in the County of Alameda, as evidenced by her persistent leadership, fighting for seniors, for children, for women, for youth, for victims of domestic violence. Her many years of leadership, she served with distinction in the California State Assembly, and she was the first Asian American to serve as majority leader. We lost Supervisor Chan to traffic violence a couple of weeks ago. And it's absolutely devastating for those of us who knew her or were familiar with her work, and her absence is felt very, very deeply. She will be deeply missed. And on behalf of East Bay Community Energy, I do want to extend our condolences to her friends, her family, her staff, and all who will miss her. So with that, I just want to take a quick moment of silence before we adjourn in her memory. And thank you, colleagues, for the robust discussion tonight. May we all take Supervisor Chan's memory with us and continue to be inspired in the work that we do for our communities as public servants. So thank you all and good evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you for the cats.